It's got Star Fox Dinosaur Planet problem. And I'll explain that.
I've never wanted to have sex with a pot pie, but like, I'd have sex with that pot pie.
We're all weak to stepping on nails.
Let me preface this by saying I wrote a script.
Daytona Beach is like 2 mild inconveniences from being a post-apocalyptic wasteland anyway.
So many of my tabs say semen.
Are you guys ready for this weird, horny adventure that we're all about to go on?
You can't handcuff me for skanking.
This motherfucker gaslights you.
Diet Coke and Sorrow will be chapter 4.
And against all odds, Kyle, we became those swirly weirdos.
This whole podcast is a very negative mouthfeel.
Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how, honestly, I don't have time for a joke here because we have 22 Ghost Riders to talk about.
Dear God.
Count them. Count them.
22 Ghost Riders, you guys.
Oops, all Ghost Riders, baby.
Matt, I only have the mental capacity for like 6 Ghost Riders, so you're going to have to tell me which ones are worth keeping.
My Ghost Rider threshold is a baker's dozen. That's it.
Well, before we started recording this episode, Kyle, you said you only had space for 4, so that number's going up. By the end of today, it might just be at 22. We'll see.
He's gonna reverse Pawn Stars you up to a higher price.
You didn't have to call out that I pre-planned that joke, Matt. That was supposed to sound organic.
Oh boy, so for those of you who haven't heard, we have been taking commissions for our flavor text series over at patreon.com/debatethiscast. For the low price of $50, you can make us learn and then regurgitate whatever lore you want. Typically, this is something we all have a varied amount of interest in, but luckily for me, my great friend Connor, known in our Discord as Thunder Chicken, has gifted me with a great opportunity. Today's flavor text is not only about my favorite subject, but will also act as punishment for all the sins of the other nerds on this call. For I, Matt Cole, am about to go through the entire 70-plus year history of my favorite comic book character, the Ghost Rider.
Ooh, baby.
This is your favorite subject out of like all possible subjects?
I mean, you can be mad, Kyle, but you still have to sit through the podcast. Your jokes mean nothing to me.
Okay.
My question was going to be, Did you Venmo Connor $50? Is that what you did? You have to tell us if you did that.
No, the honest thing is that Connor DM'd me one day and said, I'm going to commission a flavor text. I'm between Ghost Rider and something else. And I don't remember what the something else was.
You blacked out when you read Ghost Rider.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, but I want you to pick which one. And I was like, well, let me tell you how much joy it would bring me to do a Ghost Rider flavor text. But you have to be the one to DM Andrew and tell Andrew you want a Ghost Rider flavor text. Because if I tell him you want a Ghost Rider flavor text, they won't believe me. Here in hell to accept their punishment today are Andrew, Phil Coulson Henderson,
Nice.
Todd, Max Parrish Thomas, and Kyle Red Hulk Harper. And I will give a free pass to anyone who can connect those 3 names.
Have they all been Ghost Riders?
Oh, they have been Ghost Rider for like a hot minute.
Phil Coulson was Ghost Rider?
Yeah,
Phil
man.
Coulson was Ghost Rider.
Why have you not
Rider.
watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's so good.
It's true.
I
It is very
refuse.
good.
After I followed through the Terrigen bomb going off and Phil Coulson getting his hand chopped off, and then I was like, I'm done with this.
That's literally like the next episode. Like you have 2
stood
more
at the
episodes
edge of the
to
diving
see.
board and walked away.
Yeah.
Well, okay, context. That was right around the time that they were trying to launch Inhumans, and I equated the two in my brain because they were trying to interweave
But
them,
season
and I was
4,
like, I cannot.
Season 4 is the best season.
I only watched enough of the Robbie Reyes episodes to see him transform enough times that it blew their whole budget and they stopped showing him transforming.
It totally did do that.
I do love these like comic book roles that are more of like mantles people get instead of like, I don't know, like who they are.
Like the Phoenix.
Like the Phoenix,
The Phoenix
like Green
Force, at
Lantern,
least, yeah.
because it allows for stupid stuff like Red Hulk Ghost Rider or
Yeah.
like Batman Green Lantern or something dumb like that, which is like why we're all reading comic books is so we can see Phil Coulson as Ghost Rider. Like,
God.
that's why you read superhero comics.
Right.
That and to watch Batman and Superman punch each other in the face for the umpteenth time.
This time it'll be different, though, Kyle.
It will, and it'll be dumber and more fun.
Well, good news for you, Kyle. You've got to stick around to the end of the episode now, because we end with a whole bunch of very silly people who were Ghost Rider for a hot minute, and some cool art was born out of it.
I want that more than anything else here.
Yeah, well, that's the reward. That's the carrot at the end of the stick you get if you hang on the whole time.
Let's all before we dive in, predictions for stupidest Ghost Rider plus so and so mashup.
I like that.
And I'm Ghost Rider and Groot are my two. Ghost Rider, Groot.
Groot Rider.
I think a Reed Richards Ghost Rider would be really fun.
I mean, I've already said my favorite Ghost Rider in a different episode that I know we're going to talk about later, so I won't say it. I think the one that I don't want, but I'm sure we got at some point, is like a Wolverine Ghost Rider.
Ooh.
I feel like I that's the kind of thing that I would turn the page and go, oh, of course. Like,
For that 8-year stretch
Yeah.
where Wolverine was everything in Marvel.
yeah.
Just
well, and then they're
Yep.
like, wow, he's been here too many places. Let's kill him. Also make him old and time displaced.
yep.
Yeah, that's pretty
And
much
then
it.
we'll kill him again
Mm-hmm.
and then kill him one more time for good measure.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but we don't get Groot Rider, Wolverine Rider, or
Reed Rider?
Reed Rider.
Reed
Yeah,
Rider.
like Reed Rider is good. Anywhere in
Ryder
here
Richards,
today.
which is Reed Richards' stupid son who plays lacrosse.
I don't know if any of them have been the Ghost Rider before, but I'm sure that they probably have, because everyone has been the Ghost Rider at one point or another.
Reed Rider is another alias for Sue Storm. I'll stop now.
Gross.
Well,
Oh.
with that said, before we jump in today, let's talk about the traditional question. What do you guys know about the Ghost Rider right now before we start this podcast?
I'm still on Reed Rider. I don't like it.
That didn't feel good.
That did not leave a good feel. I know that you really like Ghost Rider. That's what I know about Ghost Rider.
I'll take that.
I know there were 2 Nicolas Cage movies, and Sam Elliott was also a Ghost Rider, and
Canonically.
he whips a fiery chain around, and whatever Ghost Rider rides turns into a fiery, cool, like metal album version of that thing, and it's all the best and worst parts of like 80s comic books rolled into one character.
Yeah, I would say all those things, and I know a couple of the weirder alternative Ghost Riders, like the one where Ghost Rider has a baby Thanos. I'm aware of that, which I think is stemmed from the joke of, would you kill baby Thanos to change the future? And he can't, so he doesn't, which I'm sure Matt will talk about. Yeah,
We will
stupid.
talk
Comics
about
are
that.
stupid. The only other, I think, bullet point I have on Ghost Rider is that in every Marvel beat 'em up game, he always shows up in the Hell level or the Nightmare level or a Doctor Strange level, and then whoever is available instantly has to play him because he's very rad.
Yep.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
He always shows up and he's like, I guess I'll help you because you're here, and you're like, yeah, man, that would be great because we're
Yeah.
fighting a bad thing.
Come to think of it, yeah, he got retrofit into every single Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He also actually had his own video game in 2007. It was a
Was
tie-in
it a-
movie for
yeah.
PS2.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's okay.
Matt, I'm gonna interrupt a lot to ask dumb questions like this, so get ready.
Go ahead.
Has there been a Ghost Rider tank? Has there been a Ghost Rider vehicle with fiery tank treads?
I didn't do a lot of research about like alternative vehicles that different Ghost Riders used. I would have a hard time believing that there hasn't been, but I don't talk about it today and I didn't see it in my research.
Well, that are you referring to the episode we did, Kyle, or because we literally did Dry Bones and I gave him a Ghost Rider tank?
Oh,
in an episode.
Yeah.
I was not referring to that, but good catch. My other follow-up question: has there been a Ghost Rider helicopter? Because those are the two coolest things I could think to turn into giant flaming
Okay, so
propelling motions.
Thanos had a helicopter for a
He
little while.
did. He used it. There's a great scene of him in a comic book getting away from the heroes by riding in a helicopter.
That's very
It's the Thanos copter, and it's confirmed by the Russo brothers that his like dual bladed sword in Endgame was a reference to the Thanos copter.
Which is so good and stupid.
Great.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Thanos has a helicopter. Ghost Rider, we'll talk about it later, but at one point was the right-hand man of Thanos. So I don't think it was the same continuity in which Thanos had a helicopter, but it is conceivable to believe that there has been a Ghost Rider helicopter.
I have a question for you, Matt. So we always do the like, what's your experience? So obviously you've loved Ghost Rider for a long time. I'm curious, what was your first entrance or introduction to Ghost Rider?
Yeah. So it's a weird question because like growing up, I didn't read comic books, but I got a lot of comic book stories from Wikipedia and other forums that I hung out on, you know, like a lot of people do. And so I remember first reading about Ghost Rider, oh gosh, early to mid 2000s through researching X-Men and Fantastic Four and other Marvel properties, because through the 2000s, Ghost Rider didn't really have a long-standing series. He just did a bunch of miniseries and kind of popped in and out. So when I was getting into comic books, there wasn't a lot of Ghost Rider to be had. And then, honestly, the 2007 Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie was the first time that Ghost Rider had really been like put in front of me on a screen. And after that, I dove the rest of the way in and got into the rest of the lore and read some of the books. And just like was really drawn to the character because it was the kind of like edgy horror macabre that I was into in 2007. But I liked the ultimate loner aspect, the, you know, try to use my curse for good aspect, like that sort of thing.
Cool.
Todd, I just remembered this and I have to ask you, do you know who the villain was in the Ghost Rider movie starring Nic Cage, the first one?
Wait, I do know this because we talked about it, and I don't remember now.
It's everyone's favorite prediction from the MCU shows.
Was it Mephisto?
It was Mephisto.
Oh my god, we did talk about this.
Guys, we're going to talk about Mephisto more than we talked about Mephisto all through WandaVision.
Fuck. I don't think I was ready for that.
Listeners, please don't leave. Please.
You literally cannot have Ghost Rider without Mephisto. So we're going to talk about Mephisto a bunch today. But I have one question for you guys. Before we get into this, have any of y'all seen the 2007 Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie, the 2011 Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie, or the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think it was season 5 that had Ghost Rider in it?
Ding.
Like 1/10 of a ding on the last one.
Oh, was that season 5? Am I misremembering that as season 4?
To be honest, I don't totally remember.
Doesn't matter. I'll ding for that third one.
Okay, cool. So through this flavor text, because those are the three, well, I would say the 2011 Ghost Rider movie barely exists, but the 2007 Nic Cage movie and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 4 or 5 are the two probably most seen Ghost Rider versions outside of comic books. So I try to tie things back to those movies as touchstones. So, you know, if you're looking for supplemental material, feel free to like pull up an IMDb of those movies because I'll reference some actors.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. I don't remember, like the 2007 one was not a bad depiction.
It was not a
Rider.
Bad one.
No, so the 2007 Ghost Rider movie, not to get like super deep into it, was a really good adaptation of the Ghost Rider story, but pulled pieces from two different Ghost Riders and kind of put it together in one story. And that
which happened a lot at the time, yeah.
Right. And that was the biggest criticism. But the reality is that like that 2007 Ghost Rider was a big relaunch of Ghost Rider to fans, because at that point, the story of Ghost Rider had gotten so comic booky and convoluted that following one cohesive thread from origin to big bad fight was almost impossible. And so honestly, the 2007 movie is a really good telling of a Ghost Rider story following a pretty easy to follow arc that's relatively comic accurate.
It was a big thing at the time that like Marvel especially, all the big superheroes were not the main named person in that role. So like in the comics, it was not Jonny Blaze or Robbie Reyes, it was someone else, and that happened across the board. So the movies would take stories that involved not Jonny Blaze, for example, and then put Jonny Blaze into it because that was like what people who read the comics 15 years prior knew. But like the Marvel from like 1999 to 2008, when Iron Man came out, did not know what to do with itself. And and now here we are today. It's the biggest media franchise in the world.
It didn't cross my mind, but like fuck, that Ghost Rider movie was only a year before Iron Man came out. That's wild.
Yeah.
And then the second one was after Iron Man 2 came out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like we did a whole sidebar about the Ghost Rider movies.
Yeah.
The 2011 movie is really bad. We'll talk about the comic book that it was based on today, and I'll clue you in a little bit about why it was so bad. The first Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie holds up relatively well. The CGI looks good. The storytelling is decent. Nic Cage is not completely unhinged. Like, for a movie that came out a year before Iron Man, I would say it holds up decently well against Iron Man. I mean, it doesn't have Jon Favreau directing, so it's not the Robert Downey Jr. powerhouse, but it is not the worst of the pre-MCU Marvel movies by any means.
I caught it on like FX or whatever station plays it all the time 2 or 3 years ago, and yeah, it holds up. It's solid story plot, good, flaming motorcycle that got done really well. And again, Sam Elliott rides like a flaming horse, and that's all you need in a Ghost Rider story for me.
The only thing I want to add before you dump this hot Spirit of Vengeance on us, Matt, looking at the IMDb page, looks like part of the soundtrack, there was a song called Broken Spoke, and it was performed by Spiderbait, which is that band that did the cover of Black Betty, right?
Yes, and they also covered Ghost Riders in the Sky for that movie in what I think is my favorite scene in comic book movie history, if I'm being completely honest.
Is that when he's riding side by side with Sam Elliott?
Yeah,
and there's the flaming foot. Yeah.
Yep. Which is almost like taken almost frame for frame out of the comic books, which is really cool.
Have anyone who's seen these movies name 3 scenes, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's hop into the lore, baby. Listeners, there will be...
He's so happy.
I'm so excited, you guys. There will be an Imgur link to the pictures referenced in this document. It will be in the show notes. These poor nerds have a Google Doc because I didn't have time to put an Imgur link together for them. So if you hear me say Google Doc, what I mean is Imgur. But nerds, let's go. So... first, we are going to talk about the very first iteration of a character called Ghost Rider, which was way back in 1948, 10 years after Action Comics #1 hit the newsstands. Readers met the very first Ghost Rider in Tim Holt #11, a Western frontier comic released by Magazine Enterprises. And you can see this Ghost Rider in picture #1.
He is a cowboy-ass cowboy.
Yep.
And a ghost-ass rider.
He's going to try to get me to smoke a cigarette right now and tell me it's cool.
Yeah, so this was the late 40s, early 50s. Western frontier media was huge in America, and this story is no different. It was created by Ray Crank and Dick Ayers. Dick Ayers is super influential throughout Marvel history. Wrote for Fantastic Four, Tales of Suspense, which turned into Captain America, Tales to Astonish, which became Incredible Hulk, Ant-Man, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Like, Dick Ayers is a big name in Marvel history.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this predates most of the like Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and the like, right?
Yes, this Marvel did not
predates.
exist.
Predates Marvel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is DC is the only name from this era of comics that is around still today. So the character Rex Fury was known as the Calico Kid. He was a Western costume cowboy hero who and I feel bad saying this, but I'm going to say it. This was 1948. On his black horse, Ebony, with his quote-unquote Chinese boy helper sing-song.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Ouch.
really bad.
Yeah, this is even before Marvel was doing Fing Fang Foom.
Yeah.
They're like giant dragons, so yeah.
Yeah, and they fought gunslingers, outlaws, and incredibly racially insensitive Native American stereotypes with the likes of movie hero Tim Holt.
That's why this man's gonna give me a cigarette.
Yeah. Again, you know, like this was 1948. These comics are actually in public domain now and have been reprinted, but you can read them online if you do the right Google searching. I did read Tim Holt number 11. It's cool. It's fun. It's super racist. So if you're going to read it, just be ready because it's super racist.
The only thing I think that could drive this home as being like the most product of his time is if you tell me there was an entire arc where he like busts up a union or something.
I was gonna say, yeah, it sounds very much like those old Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the second story of Tim Holt number 11 features the Calico Kid being thrown off a waterfall into what is called the Devil's Sink. He survives after he is spit into an underground cave. After escaping the cave, Fury decides to ride again as the Ghost Rider and kills Bart Lasher, the man who tried to kill him and killed his first horse. So the powers and abilities of Rex Fury, the first Ghost Rider, he's got cowboy powers, you know, sharpshooting,
power of cowboy,
gunslinging. He's cowboy. He's got a
can roll a cigarette with one hand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a super fast white horse named Spectre. He glows in the dark by wearing white clothes covered in phosphorus. He makes his head and hands float with the black side of his cape. Basically, one side of his cape is phosphorus, one side of it's just black, and he only appears at night, so he can make it look like he's a floating head, because that's cool.
Sure.
He also has a black bull whip, so he can yoink people magically, because again, it's nighttime, and you can't see black things in the nighttime in 1948. So there you go.
So he doesn't even have powers. He's just an illusionist.
Well, he's got cowboy powers.
Cowboy powers, Kyle.
Yeah. Yep, he's got cowboy powers, and he is an illusionist cowboy. So this version of the Ghost
Rider... That would be
Rider,
an awesome D&D character.
He was inspired by the Headless Horseman from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Vaughn Monroe record Ghost Riders in the Sky. So, in 1952, Ayers began freelancing at Atlas Comics and was there through its transition to Marvel Comics. Ayers began working with Jack Kirby at Atlas and became Kirby's second inker at Marvel. Like many horror characters, Ghost Rider was abandoned by Magazine Enterprises after the founding of the Comics Code Authority in 1954, but after the trademark to the character's name and motif lapsed, Marvel Comics called up Ayers to launch their new horror-free version of Ghost Rider.
We talk indirectly so much about the Comics Code Authority that like eventually we're going to do a sidebar on the Comics Code Authority.
I think we have to. I mean, it's one of the most shaping things in comics. Like, so much of that era of comics, even things like Batman's no killing code and stuff, all is because the government felt the need to step in
bunch of white
and
men
regulate comic books.
A bunch of white men were like, these comic books are ruining our children's lives, not our actual bad parenting. Couldn't be that.
It's because a lot of the authors were Jewish too. It's a big Yeah.
Because these characters in tights are going to change things. No.
Well, yep.
So with that story, save for another flavor text, let's move on to Carter Slade. So this is Marvel's first Ghost Rider. It's in 1967. This is picture number 2.
Seen this guy before. Seen this one.
Yeah. So this debuted in Ghost Rider number 1 and is technically the first appearance of Marvel's Ghost Rider. But the character was renamed to the Phantom Rider in 1970. I have 1972 here, but that's not right. It's 1974. Was renamed to the Phantom Rider in 1974. Carter Slade is the only Phantom Rider to be called Ghost Rider, but a reprint canonically called Slade the Phantom Rider. So that's really confusing.
Okay.
But the Phantom Rider is a character that still exists in Marvel Comics and still does things, and I really don't like the character. I think they've done really terrible things recently with Phantom Rider, and it's kind of a bummer. But Carter Slade is like the only person to be both the Ghost Rider and the Phantom Rider. Actually does a couple of stories with Jonny Blaze, goes forward in time to possess his descendant to help Jonny Blaze.
Sure.
Jonny Blaze goes back in time to help revive him as the Phantom.
They did a ding dang time paradox.
time
What
paradox.
they did.
So Carter Slade officially is the Phantom Rider, but Marvel is pretty like wink, wink, nudge, nudge that he also
Got it.
owns that Ghost Rider name as well.
Quick question, just high level, like what's the major difference between the two, Ghost and Phantom Rider?
I just looked it up because I had the same question. Phantom Rider is just like that wears a phosphorus suit, does cool
Okay.
whip tricks at night.
Power of
version
Cowboy.
Yep.
Power of Cowboy's character,
Okay.
so that they could tell cool cowboy stories still, but not use the Ghost Rider name.
Cool.
Yeah.
Basically.
So who Carter Slade is as Ghost Rider continues on as Phantom Rider through Marvel Comics. He's got a nearly identical costume to the Ghost Rider from Magazine Enterprises, but they added a full face mask. He was given the outfit and his horse by a Native American medicine man named Flaming Star.
That's not great.
Yeah,
Nope.
It doesn't get better. Powers and abilities are similar to Rex Fury from the Magazine Enterprises run. And this person, Carter Slade, is Sam Elliott in the 2007 Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So he is Carter Slade, whose backstory is rewritten a little bit. He also, in the movie, they kind of merged Carter Slade with this character named Caretaker, who is another character in Ghost Rider lore, who we're not going to talk about a bunch because it gets super convoluted. But Sam Elliott kind of plays both of those roles in the 2007 Ghost Rider movie, which is why it's really cool when he does that, like, I got one ride left in me. It's really cool because that is the original Ghost Rider, both in the movie and canonically, and that's fun for fans like me.
That is cool.
Yeah.
There is a Spider-Man cartoon that has Phantom Rider in it, and in that continuity, it is an alternate universe Ben Parker as Phantom Rider. Because they go to a Western world and meet a Western Spider-Man, and then there's Phantom Rider Ben Parker. And I'm very confused.
What?
Is this the 90s Spider-Man? Spider-Man?
No,
Spider's Men.
This is like
Spider's Men.
like late 2000s, early
Okay.
2010s.
Because I've been trying to pick out which weird Disney Plus cartoon that I want to watch will be worth my time. And it was almost, I didn't realize the old this is not important. The old Spider-Man run from the 90s is literally like, you're dropped right in, here we go. Like, it doesn't really mess
They all
around
are.
at all.
Yeah.
They all are. All of those Spider-Man cartoons just kind of like, yeah, you know it. His uncle died, and he got bit by a radioactive spider.
You don't need to see the parents of Batman die on this. You got it. You know.
You start with the deep cuts too. That I started watching the 90s one. It's honestly holds up. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, I'm convinced. Sorry, Matt. This is your time.
All right, so moving on from Carter Slade and the Phantom Rider, in 1972, Marvel decided to take the moniker of Ghost Rider in a different direction. So the Western character was renamed first to Knight Rider, which was, a nickname for the KKK.
Yeah.
Then they switched it to Phantom Rider in 1974. Meanwhile, writer Gary Friedrich, editor-in-chief Roy Thomas, and artist Mike Plug dreamt up a possible Daredevil villain called Stuntmaster, who was workshopped into a flaming skull-headed motorcyclist. This character would become the new iteration of Ghost Rider.
Stuntmaster is like right up there with Stiltman.
It sucks.
I'm surprised. Yeah, Stuntmaster seems like the perfect, like, low-grade villain that should be worked into every, like, video game, like, comic book video
Oh
game.
yeah,
Real
like
paste
you mean
pot
like
Pete
arcade,
energy.
like arcade is.
Yes.
Yeah, like Shocker is,
Yeah.
or like, you know, like just an early villain, and they do cool flips, and it's a super annoying boss fight because they're impossible to hit because they're doing stunts all the time. Like, perfect early.
I think Kyle just
comic
wants to
book
talk
video
about
game
Spider-Man, guys.
Maybe.
Stuntmaster started as basically Evel Knievel. Like, I don't know what else to call him, except they're like, hey, can we put Evel Knievel in this comic? And there is a huge debate betwixt those three guys about who actually created Ghost Rider, and specifically whose idea it was for the flaming skull head. And I believe that it's Gary Friedrich, who is like currently threatening to sue the other two and Marvel for claiming that he did not come up with the flaming head idea. It doesn't matter, but whatever.
I love that that's 50 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what? There was an Evel Knievel comic, and I wouldn't be surprised if Stuntmaster was made just to like compete with Evel Knievel.
Yeah.
Because
That tracks.
that was a thing.
So that brings us to 1972 and the introduction of Jonny Blaze, who is your Ghost Rider through 1983. It's the Ghost Rider you know. He's picture number 3 in the documents. And when I say he's the Ghost Rider you know, Jonny Blaze is the name of the character that Nic Cage plays in the 2007 Ghost Rider movie, although that Jonny Blaze is much more similar to Danny Ketch, who we will talk about next. But in Marvel Spotlight's number 5 in 1972, Jonny Blaze's Ghost Rider was revealed and debuted, and after a short run in Marvel Spotlights, received a self-titled series, Ghost Rider Volume 2, in 1973. Now, Jonny Blaze is the Ghost Rider with the most lore because he has been around the longest, and thus his story is impossibly convoluted. And I am not going to try and thread the needle and take you through all of Jonny Blaze's story from 1972 to now, because it will be longer than the FNAF flavor text and harder to follow. So that's not what we're going to do today.
Perfect.
Basically, from here going forward, what we're going to do is basic backstory, powers and abilities, and a couple of major story arcs of the major Ghost Riders in the Marvel continuity. So, jumping in on Jonny Blaze, here's that backstory for you. He is the son of Barton Blaze and Naomi Cale, who starred in a Quentin Carnival stunt show with Craig Crash Simpson. Mom walks out, takes Johnny's brother and sister with her. That last line was from a retcon and got added later. Barton Blaze dies in a stunt, and Jonny is adopted by Crash Simpson and his wife Mona. They have a daughter named Roxanne, who will be a long-time on and off love interest for Jonny. That is Eva Mendes in the 2007 movie.
His adopted stepsister.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Cool.
not in the movie. They left the sister part out of the movie.
Understandably.
Sure.
But yeah, it is. Yep. I think the line from Wikipedia was, their relationship moves past familial. And I was like, wow, what a terrible way to say that. I don't like that at all.
Nah, I
Neat.
didn't want that.
Yeah. So Jonny Blaze joined the Crash family, or the Simpson family, and joined the Crash Simpson Stunt Cycle Extravaganza Traveling Stunt Show. Because
That's got some... Keep going. You're fine.
I was just going to say, because Crash had become a father figure to Jonny Blaze.
That's got some big Robin origin, like the...
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Crash Simpson comes down with life-threatening cancer, and Jonny turns to the occult to save his life.
As one does.
Yeah, I mean...
As one does, yeah. Jonny attempted to summon Satan, but actually summoned WandaVision star Mephisto,
Ralph Boner.
to whom he sold his soul in return for Crash's cancer to be cured.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What if you could just summon Satan? Like, how fucking cool is that?
There's a lot of stories where someone summons a demon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard. You can't
It's
summon
hard.
demons.
They don't typically end well.
They're not summonable. They're not good summons.
Can't just drop an @ here in the demons group chat. It doesn't work that way.
Well, you can't even just draw a pentagram and light some candles. Like,
Back in my
let's be
day.
real.
It's gotta be a whole thing.
It's harder than they make it look.
Yeah.
All right, so after Jonny sold his soul in return for Crash's cancer to be cured,
And I'm sure Crash lived a very full, healthy, long life.
a long and happy life of about 24 hours because he died in a motorcycle stunt the next day.
No one's ever made a deal with the devil,
No.
and it's just like, fine. It's just normal
The
after.
deal is exactly what you imagined, and you'll never see me again. Thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The devil dances off stage.
And if you do it right, you get a gold fiddle.
Yeah.
That is basically the origin story of the 2007 Nic Cage Ghost Rider. Cut out some of the family swapping and keep the parent issues and kill the dad after his cancer is cured. And you've got the 2007 Nic Cage movie. But in the comics, Johnny confronted Mephisto about not keeping up with his end of the deal. But Roxanne drove away Mephisto with the purity of her love. I don't know, 1970s comic bullshit, whatever.
All right.
Mephisto bonded Blaze with the demon Zarathos as an act of revenge. This turned Blaze into a leather-clad skeleton with a flaming head called Ghost Rider.
Question.
Johnny-
Important
all right,
question.
yep, go
Does
ahead.
the leather come with Zarathos?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why, but the answer to your question is yes.
Sick.
It's part of the curse.
Yeah.
The leather is part of the curse.
You're going to get so sweaty and
Yeah.
be so
Have you worn a full leather suit? It's uncomfortable.
Especially not on
You wore a
fire.
full leather suit?
We don't need to get into that today, Todd.
So Zarathos is an important name. It'll come back. So tuck that one in your pocket for later. Johnny kept his soul, but was forced to punish the wicked and evil upon Mephisto's demand. Whenever he was in the presence of evil, he would transform into Ghost Rider, exact the devil's revenge, and return the evil to hell. Blaze was not completely lost in the transformation and would help the innocent when they were in danger. And that is the basic backstory of Jonny Blaze Ghost Rider.
All right.
So getting on,
Okay.
yeah, right. It's easy enough to follow. It gets worse. At this point, it's easy enough to follow.
Does he actually? I do have a question. Does he?
Yeah.
Does he like Hulk out, or does he know what is he like sentient when he's in demon mode?
Are Johnny Blaze and the Spirit of Vengeance two separate personalities?
Thank you, Kyle.
Or are they one and the same?
So that's a great question. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but a very common running through line of Ghost Rider stories is that there is a battle over control of the physical body between whatever the Spirit of Vengeance is and the host. So in 1972, when it's first written, Jonny Blaze is Ghost Rider. He has some level of sentience with Ghost Rider after he transforms, but it's sort of a blind rage thing. And then as that arc goes on, Zarathos becomes more and more defined as his own entity and personality.
Do they ever reach a mutual agreement and respect a la Smart Hulk in Endgame?
Not in this story arc, but we've got 50 more
Okay.
years to get through.
All right.
Yeah. So let's get on to powers and abilities for the Jonny Blaze Ghost Rider. I have a brief quote here from the Wikipedia. I have no idea what this quote is from. It was not cited. There's no footnote. I just really like this quote.
It's the thing that all of our teachers warned us about.
Yeah. So let me just read this quote for you. As a primal agent of heaven, empowered by the spirits of vengeance, created by the power of God himself ages past to enact vengeance upon the sinners of mankind, Jonny Blaze is one of the most powerful entities within the mortal and immortal realms.
I think that's from Deuteronomy.
Which, let me say, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. Ghost Rider never came up in all my religion classes. The Spirit of Vengeance never once was on a test, in a book, nothing. So I'm questioning the legitimacy of this.
I need that footnote is what I need.
Me too, man. And it, Jonny Blaze, because he is around forever, does end up becoming a super high power level Marvel being. But this quote is very unfounded and it made me laugh. So going back to the 1972 Jonny Blaze Ghost Rider, he has a human form, but transforms into the Ghost Rider in the presence of evil. He has a flaming motorcycle that can travel faster than conventional vehicles and can go straight up or glide on water. Projecting hellfire is his main weapon. He's got superhuman strength and reflexes, total invulnerability to physical damage, and he is made of pure hellfire and thus can regenerate limbs and heal super fast.
All right.
This all reads, and I'm guessing this is where the quote, the uncredited quote comes from. This all reads out of, like, again, that Marvel, like, ultimate encyclopedia, where they always conclude, like, well, I guess if you extrapolate their powers out to their fullest ability, this person is also a god and the most powerful person in the Marvel universe, like the 15 other people we called the most powerful Marvel character in the universe. Like, which, yeah, like if you extrapolate out, yeah, they're sent here from God himself, so I guess they're the most powerful one too. Sure. Like
put them in that far right category over there of powers, because they got all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get on to some major story arcs of Jonny Blaze. When his series first started, he was partners with Son of Satan Damon Hellstrom on and off for like a while to fight actual Satan and stuff.
Sorry, Satan and Mephisto are two separate entities.
Satan and Mephisto are two separate entities.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. Basically, Mephisto has long time been Marvel's version of the devil. And so when you think of United States American Christian Satan, that's Mephisto in the Marvel realm.
Yeah.
Satan is another demon in the Marvel universe who is not
cool.
Our Satan. Yeah, it sucks. It doesn't matter. Damon Hellstrom is his kid, and Damon Hellstrom and Ghost Rider are buddies.
Cool.
That is to say, they could feasibly cast Mephisto in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They will likely not cast Satan.
It's
We
true.
will likely not see Satan on stage getting punched by Smart Hulk.
Jonny Blaze also palled around with this guy called The Friend, who is actually hippie Jesus. Ghost Rider almost became a born-again Christian here, but that arc was scratched. And I'm 100% serious.
We will also likely not see someone be cast as the friend
As
of
Jesus?
Yeah.
just so Paul Rudd can share tacos with them.
I would love to see Marvel put The Friend and have him look exactly like white evangelical Jesus in the MCU and say nothing about it.
Yeah, I'm sure Marvel, that's owned by Disney, will be real quick to jump to that one.
Well, and that was basically what happened. The writer on the arc, his name was Tony Isabella. He wrote, I don't remember, it was like 7 or 9 issues of Ghost Rider working with this guy called The Friend who kept him safe from Satan's power. And this Tony Isabella's idea for this arc was at the very end to reveal that The Friend has been Jesus all along. And then Ghost Rider accepts the power of Christ and becomes even stronger because now he is hell's tool, but has accepted heaven. And the editors read that and were like, absolutely not, and changed the final issue.
Thank God.
The Friend was just a guy.
And that strikes me as like, you know, if you're reading this and you're not religious, you read that thread and you're like, I don't want this. If you're reading that and you are very religious, also, you probably don't want this. Like, no one is happy except for this one writer who's like, I got it.
Nobody that isn't Kirk Cameron doesn't like that.
Yeah, Kirk Cameron.
I was going to say, a lot of people in my youth group would have eaten that up. Would have just been like, oh, we love Ghost Rider because he accepts Jesus into his heart and wears a cape, is a superhero, etc., etc. Like, I think for some people it's the best of both worlds.
Those are the people who Cyclops is their favorite X-Men.
Hey.
Cyclops gets a bad rap. Justice for Cyclops 2021, but
sorry, Matt, keep going.
That's not this podcast.
So moving on, for a while, Jonny Blaze was a movie stuntman as a day job. Tony Isabella also wrote Ghost Rider onto a team with Angel, Iceman, Hercules, and Black Widow called the Champions.
That's such a weird combination.
It's such a weird combination.
Like, I couldn't... You gave me 2 and I couldn't guess 3 and I wouldn't have guessed 4. Like,
yeah, I can't recognize that pattern.
Yeah. So these books were bad and only made it 17 issues, although they fought Godzilla once, and that's pretty cool.
Cool.
But Ghost Rider wasn't there in that issue.
If you gave me the 5 people on the Champions and then asked me to guess a villain they fought once and gave me 20 guesses, I would not have guessed Godzilla in 50 of them.
Current 2021 movie star Godzilla.
Highest grossing movie since the pandemic started. Godzilla and King Kong. Go on.
So after a couple years with the Champions, which actually, okay, I gotta go on this diatribe for a second. Everybody, the whole complaint about the Champions was like, what the fuck are these 5 people doing together?
Yeah,
like,
how did they all miss 5 different flights? And
Yeah.
somehow it was like, you 5, we need you.
And so in I don't remember, 2011, maybe, in some X-Men comic, Angel is doing like a TV interview and they ask him about the Champions, and
That's
he's
awesome.
like, hey, you shouldn't judge us on like how long we were together. You should judge us by all the people we saved and all the good we did. And the Champions was a good thing. And that's the last thing that has been
I
said
love
about the
that.
Champions.
Amazing.
I love it, and I would have only loved it more if like Marvel called up the stats of the people they saved, and it's like, actually, the Champions got 20 people killed or something. Like,
or if they would have been like, would you like to go any deeper on the champions? And Angel would have said, I would not, thank you. Please, next question.
I was gonna say it's just a pet peeve of mine when comic books feel the need to bring back these old call-outs of a group that had 17 issues in its run, when it's just as easy to ignore it altogether.
Forget it ever happened.
No one was asking for Marvel to retcon where the Champions went. Just forget it happened and leave it dead, because that's horrible. Those 5 people in a group together. Of course it failed after 17 issues. That's garbage.
Yeah, it's super bad.
No, that's a pretty funny movie from 2007, written by Seth Rogen.
All right, kudos. Well played. So after a couple of years with the Champions, Ghost Rider met Morbius the Living Vampire, Man-Thing, and Werewolf by Night.
This feels a bit better. This
Yeah.
Hijinks ensued. I don't know.
I see the through line there.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider just had to go through a phase to find himself, and then he kind of got it figured out.
So here is the end of the Ghost Rider Jonny Blaze arc up around 1983. Zarathos and Johnny have both been growing stronger and stronger and come to battle for Johnny's physical body. In the finale of this run, longtime Ghost Rider villain Centurius shows up after Zarathos and Jonny Blaze have been fighting and traps Blaze's soul in Centurius's soul crystal. Zarathos uses all of its energy to free Blaze and traps itself in the crystal with Centurius to finish him off. And that frees Johnny from the curse of being the Ghost Rider.
Interesting.
So that is the end of the first major Ghost Rider arc as far as Ghost Rider, a flaming skull on a motorcycle.
Cool.
Oh, Centurius is horrifying to look at.
Yeah. A lot of the early villains from the Ghost Rider story were, after they got the go-ahead to go back to horror, they went straight back to horror.
Yeah, tough to look at.
Yeah.
So, after Jonny Blaze was separated from Zarathos, Ghost Rider, as a character, disappeared for a little while, but the spirit of vengeance was reintroduced in 1990. This new Ghost Rider leaned into the 90s comic style and solidified the modern power set of the character. If you know Ghost Rider from any of the 90s cartoons, this is the Ghost Rider that you know.
Is this the one with the fire chain whip?
Yes, this is the first Ghost Rider with a chain whip.
That's all I care about.
Right?
The fire chain whip is my favorite part about Ghost Rider.
Yeah, easy.
Give me the flaming skull, the motorcycle with flame tires, and the whip and the chain whip. and that's Ghost Rider to me. I don't care what his name is or who he's fighting. I need those three things, and that's Ghost Rider, baby.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you take those three things, you add in the penance stare, and that's pretty much it. Like, that's the whole character.
I don't need the penance stare because it's too much like the Care Bear stare, but made for edgy teens.
It's kind of the opposite of the Care Bear stare. I think.
Nope, it's the same thing.
Now I'm just imagining Ghost Rider projecting the penance stare out of his belly.
Oh gosh! So picture number 4 in the document is Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider. This is his premiere. Ghost Rider Volume 3, number 1. Again, picture number 4 in the document. It was released in 1990, and he maintained his self-titled issues through number 93 in 1998.
Danny Ketch's the writer, not the writer.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Danny Ketch's lore is a little bit more straightforward than Jonny Blaze's, but does feature like a retcon or two that make it kind of hard to follow. So, Danny Ketch's basic backstory. He was born in Brooklyn. He has a sister named Barbara. They were out riding around Brooklyn one day and were attacked by gangsters, and Barbara was severely injured by a villain named Deathwatch, who looks sort of like Brack from Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but is a demon.
What?
I did not put that picture in the document, so go ahead and Google Marvel Deathwatch, and you will see that he looks a little bit like Brack from Space Ghost.
Here for listeners, never said this live before, here for all Brack content.
He definitely does.
Yeah, looks a little bit like Brack. I saw the name Deathwatch, and I was like, who's Deathwatch? And I clicked on his Wikipedia page. I was like, oh, looks kind of like Brack.
So we're all aware that Space Ghost Coast to Coast is not the first iteration.
Right.
It's not the originator of those characters.
It's
right?
like Harvey. It's like Harvey Birdman.
Harvey Birdman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
While we're doing this stupid thing we're doing, Deathwatch also became an enemy of Wolverine's after Logan encountered some of his men in Madripoor, which is a thing we talked about every stupid week of our D Plus show.
So, they were injured by a villain named Deathwatch, who sort of looks like Brack, but is a demon. Danny escaped to a graveyard where he found a motorcycle with a mystic sigil on its gas cap.
Awesome.
Better get on it.
And when Danny touched it, he was transformed into the Ghost Rider. Now, Ghost Rider beat the gangsters, but was unable to save Barbara, who slipped into a coma. And in the beginning of this arc, Danny could only transform into Ghost Rider when innocent blood was spilled and he touched the sigil on his motorcycle.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, powers and abilities of Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider. All the powers Jonny Blaze has. Same stuff. All those powers included in this Patreon tier of Danny Ketch as well. He also debuted Ghost Rider's finishing move, his main thing, the penance stare, in Ghost Rider number 4, 1990. So the penance stare is a big, whether you hate it or not, Kyle, is like the big through line of Ghost Rider. It is his ultimate weapon. When he looks into the eyes of victims, forces them to feel all of the pain and evil they've caused at once, which burns their soul. Danny Ketch has shown some ability to limit its output, sort of like Cyclops with his glasses, but this is pretty rare. It works on pretty much everyone except those lacking regret or sometimes eyes. Sometimes if you have more than 2 eyes or no eyes, he can't use the penance stare, but sometimes he can. I don't know. Hand wave. Notably, people that the penance stare doesn't work on: Thanos, the Punisher, Deadpool, and Venom have all survived the penance stare.
I think actually that's my biggest issue with the penance stare, because I did know that like people have, he's tried it on people and been like, it doesn't work on me because I'm so edgy.
I kind of like that, because the idea is like they don't feel remorse. So if you're going to attack somebody by making them feel guilty, that's kind of neat.
And in my
I
mind,
like the only limiting factor being not having eyes. Actually,
that is inarguably way better. Yes, you're right.
I like that being a better like weakness. Is like, oh no, this doesn't work because you don't have eyes.
well, see, looking at Thanos, the Punisher, Deadpool, and Venom, one of those is not like the other. And in my mind, when he like figured out Deadpool, it was in a series of like he used it on Thanos and it didn't work because he had no soul. He used it on the Punisher and it didn't work because he has no remorse. And then he does it on Deadpool and you hear Ryan Reynolds' voice going, "Hey, what's up?" Oh, that was neat.
Yeah, there's like a weird, weird might not be the right word, because there's kind of a like deep reasoning in the comics of like why the Punisher and Deadpool aren't affected, and it's, you know, their mental well-being doesn't allow them to feel remorse for the things they've done. It's very deep. Thanos is like weird. There's a whole arc where Thanos keeps the skull of the Ghost Rider like in a liquor cabinet and takes it out once a day to penance stare himself because it's kind of erotic for him.
Cool.
Venom is Venom, and
that was all in the
things.
lead up to make us realize how scary Thanos is.
Yeah.
Venom I kind of get, because Venom isn't like
He's a symbiote.
always sentient,
Right.
and like so like wouldn't be sentient to feel remorse. I kind of get that, and I kind of get the Punisher, because the Punisher's whole thing is like, I always feel all the pain of everything I do because I'm the Punisher and I hate myself. So like making him feel it again wouldn't be worse, because his whole thing is he always feels it. But that like when you start letting, I guess I just hate that Deadpool is immune to it, because comics Deadpool is stupid sometimes, and that's all I have to say on it. Maybe I don't like Deadpool. Maybe I don't like Deadpool.
You know what, Kyle? For what it's worth, I also hate that Deadpool is immune to the penance stare. I also don't like Deadpool. He's one of my least favorite comic book characters, so I very much level with you on that being stupid.
Like the Ryan Reynolds movies are fun, but maybe I hate Deadpool.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing about Venom too is depending on when he was penance stared, they've done so much weird retcon with the Venom symbiote, from where it started as a fun Spider-Man costume to now Null, the person who is like destroying the entire Marvel universe and was just recently somewhat stopped by the mighty Thor, like Jane Foster's Valkyrie. Like they've done so much shit with that who even knows the rules on symbiotes anymore? They retconned the emblem on his chest to be like, oh no, that's not a spider, that's a dragon. The tail's just not there. It's a dragon.
Oh, you lost me on that last part.
Hey, listeners, if you want me to do a flavor text over the Venom symbiote,
If you
let
want
me know.
Todd to do a hate cast of Venom, give us $50.
So to wrap up the penance stare, it renders victims either completely catatonic or totally incinerates them in hellfire. Danny Ketch was also the first Ghost Rider to wield a hellfire-imbued chain whip that does all sorts of comic booky things, like growing in length, being a spear, spinning fast enough to be a drill, breaking into individual pieces and being thrown like shurikens.
Stupid.
Yeah, chain whip.
All right.
The Hellfire chain whip being like a sonic screwdriver type weapon is amazing.
Sure.
Yeah.
It does whatever we need it to, and to advance the
It's
plot
fine.
along. Sure. Why not?
Approved.
Danny Ketch's bike is also notable for having a battering ram head and is more futuristic than Jonny Blaze's. He also seems to have more like hellfire bending abilities than Jonny Blaze, but it's kind of wishy-washy.
I love the phrase hellfire bending.
Me too. I also, if Marvel hadn't used the name Danny Blaze or Danny Ketch, I'm sorry, in 1990 when they did, Danny Ketch totally would have been their like Pokemon ripoff character.
So let's get into a couple major story arcs of Danny Ketch. So his sister Barbara is eventually killed by Blackout, making Blackout and Ghost Rider mortal enemies. Blackout comes back a lot. We're not going to talk about him a ton today. He's a really interesting villain. He was Johnny Whitworth in the 2011 Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance movie. No disrespect to Johnny Whitworth. His scenes are arguably some of the worst in the movie.
Nice.
That movie sucks. Don't watch it. Danny Ketch is kidnapped by Jonny Blaze, who has just been like doing stuff for a while. Blaze believes Ketch to be the new host of Zarathos, but is convinced that he is not Zarathos, and they become friends. And then they team up to form the Spirits of Vengeance, a team consisting of Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider, and Jonny Blaze, not Ghost Rider, but riding a Hellfire bike with a Hellfire shotgun.
I just love that Jonny Blaze could have gotten out of the game. He could have just like went home and done the whole Hawkeye, get a farm.
Yeah, but then they said if you do this, you get a shotgun that shoots Hellfire.
Fair.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. I want the Hellfire shotgun in everything.
Yeah.
I want Matt to keep going because I see what his notes say next.
So, after the Spirits of Vengeance is formed, Ghost Rider formed the Midnight Suns in Ghost Rider Volume 3, number 28, came out in 1992. And the Midnight Suns was a huge success for Marvel and actually received its own family imprint from December of 93 through August of 94 and had storylines running deep into the 90s. So if you're unfamiliar with family imprints, basically what that means is that every individual character who was part of the Midnight Suns, when they had their own books, whether it was a direct tie into Midnight Suns or not, had a Midnight Suns imprint on the cover.
Nice.
Okay.
And some people call the Midnight Suns the first official family imprint in Marvel Comics, but that's kind of disputed, and I don't go into it much. Notable OG members of the Midnight Suns include Danny Ketch, Jonny Blaze, Blade, Morbius the Living Vampire, and Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Can we all agree that we want this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I know Matt does, but yeah.
I want this movie.
This is the only way that I'm going to enjoy seeing Morbius on the big screen.
And if it's not Jared Leto.
Both those things. I just want to say people arguing over whether or not like Midnight Suns was the first like family imprint series is super a 90s like comic nerd.
Can I ask a dumb question? What does that mean, family imprint?
So like I said, basically any comic that comes out with any of the characters in the Midnight Suns gets a Midnight Suns logo on the front cover.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
like
So
it's part of
it's
the
a part of.
family.
Got it.
So like the argument would be like if there had been I don't know if there was like a Johnny Storm solo comic that would have gotten a Fantastic Four family.
Didn't X-Men?
Fantastic.
X-Men didn't do. They don't count X-Men like that because weren't they doing like the side missions in the 70s?
That's exactly
doesn't matter.
why this
it doesn't matter.
exists.
This is
Sure.
stupid.
Yeah.
Move on.
X-Men and Avengers are the two big arguments, and like I don't know what the counter against the Avengers is. I think the counter against the X-Men is that none of the mutants are solo character enough to not just be X-Men comics. I don't know. It's 90s comic book nerd bullshit. It does not matter.
That's exactly why the argument exists.
Yeah. One last fun note about the Midnight Suns. I think in 2016, the writer of Moon Knight suggested that he would be interested in relaunching the Midnight Suns. And the existence of the Midnight Suns was honestly the reason that I was the most disappointed that we didn't get Mephisto in WandaVision. Because like I said, you can't have Ghost Rider without Mephisto. You can't have the Midnight Suns without Ghost Rider. And I desperately want the Midnight Suns. Anyway, other important storylines.
They're playing the long game, Matt. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Disney's going to need content till the end of time.
Yeah.
You'll get Midnight Suns eventually.
This is mostly just me weeping over the canceled Ghost Rider show that was supposed to come to Hulu in 2020. Anyway, Danny Ketch was killed by Blade while Blade was possessed by the Darkhold, but he was resurrected.
Remember that thing?
Yep. Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider, beat up Galactus in the 1995 Fantastic Four cartoon.
Oh.
He also kicked Hulk over a building in the 1996 Incredible Hulk cartoon.
great.
amazing.
Yep.
That's such a 1996 cartoon thing. Like, kicked him over a building.
Do you think, Matt,
love it.
do you think that the popularity of Spawn around this time helped Ghost Rider or vice versa? Because I know
sure.
that I vaguely remember them both being in the limelight in similar points.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really similar character. Any, like, Hellspawn character, I think, just sort of spurred the alt-edge madness that drove these characters. You know, like, it's a very fringy comic book character. You know, like, Ghost Rider is not your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And so any comic book property that doesn't fit into that friendly neighborhood superhero mold bred a group of fans who would be into other things like Spawn and Blade and Man-Thing and so on and so forth. So, moving on, more plot lines with Danny Ketch. He was killed by Zarathos, which, again, remember, is the original Ghost Rider demon.
Yep.
But Danny Ketch was again resurrected. Now,
because it's comics and only Ben Parker and the Wayne parents stay dead in comics.
Yeah.
Apparently not. He was also Ghost Rider.
Ben Parker was Ghost Rider. That was a thing.
And Bruce Wayne's dad is a Batman that murders people in Flashpoint.
Yes,
so,
you're not wrong. Those have both been proven incorrect since that statement.
Go ahead,
was
Matt.
first made.
Sorry.
Yes.
So let me just warn you right now. This is where the story gets really convoluted. This was added near the end of the arc, and it changed a lot of things, and they tied up a lot of the ends, so it feels okay. But the more questions you ask, the worse it gets. Just putting that out there now. So, turns out,
I'd love to hear that.
Danny Ketch and his sister were actually the long-lost siblings of Jonny Blaze, who his mother took with her when she abandoned Johnny and his father.
That sucks.
Their family is the inheritor of a mystic curse related to the spirits of vengeance, and this gets more complicated and more convoluted.
Whoever came up with that should have been fired on the spot. That's horrible.
Yeah, that sucks.
I don't hate it. I think it's smart. I don't know. Depending on the timeline of like when they decided that Jonny Blaze had two siblings that got snatched away, and like, there's no way they were playing 4-dimensional chess back then. But to look back and be like, oh no, we had said Jonny Blaze had two siblings. Hey guys, I got it. Put away the mountain of cocaine. We got it.
That shit has all the Quentin Tarantino movies exist in the same universe kind of vibe, and I hate it. I hate that.
I get this was the time when that was cool, when it was the cool thing to like make your story loop back and connect to itself. But man, here in 2020, it's so dumb.
We just don't need it.
It's a little tired, yeah.
Let stories stand on their own. Don't.
Yeah. So we're going to go more into that storyline in a second, but one last plot point to wrap up the Danny Cage, the Danny Ketch arc. Blackout kills, apparently, Danny Ketch in Ghost Rider number 93, but his soul lives on through the spirit of vengeance to which he had been bonded through the bike's talisman. Also, in Spider-Man 93, which came out a year later, he's still alive. He's still alive, you guys. It's no worries. He's still alive.
He just like shows up and is like, hey.
Yep, literally exactly
Cool.
that, yes.
I'm not sure why they didn't just cast Jared Leto as Blackout, because I looked up Blackout in the Marvel wiki.
Oh, yeah.
And Jared Leto
like Jared
should have played
Leto.
Blackout.
He looks like that kid that everybody knew in community theater.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into this whole Danny Ketch is Jonny Blaze's brother. So Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider has been Noble Kale all along. And Noble Kale
Wait,
is
what?
Yeah, I know. Just give me a sec. Noble Kale is picture number 5 in your document. So if you could take a sec to look at picture number 5, and I'll tell you the story.
Which one of these 4 people are Noble Kale?
The
You wanna
Ghost
guess?
Rider one. He's
The one with the flaming skull, probably Kyle.
Not the man in the pilgrim hat with the
No,
the cross and the goatee.
no, that's his father, actually. That's Pastor Kale.
Wilted Kale.
So here is the Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask split in the story. Through all of the Ghost Rider Volume 3 Danny Ketch arc, people keep accusing Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider of being Zarathos, but the Ghost Rider continues to deny that he is Zarathos.
Hey, you're Zarathos. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Because Zarathos is still trapped inside of a soul crystal.
Exactly.
Exactly,
Yes.
Andrew.
Got it.
So we find out at the very end of the arc that Danny is actually bonded with the soul of Noble Kale, who is the hard quotes on first, but the first Ghost Rider. So time for a brief history on where the powers of Ghost Rider come from. 20,000 years ago, immortals called the Blood allied with the Spirit of Vengeance, an army of proto-Ghost Riders led by this guy named Zadkiel, who unfortunately comes back, to win a war against the soul-stealing demon Zarathos. They created a thing called the Medallion of Power, which housed the assembled powers of the Spirits of Vengeance. A portion of Zarathos became trapped in the medallion, and the Blood decided that the artifact was too powerful to be kept intact. So they broke it into shards to be handed down through two families, one of which being the Kales. To cut out a whole bunch of stuff, during the 17th century, Noble Kale's father sold Noble's soul to Mephisto, who activated the medallion shard within Noble Kale, making him the Ghost Rider. Mephisto and this angel named Uriel decided that Noble Kale's soul didn't belong in heaven or hell, but to the void where he could be summoned forth by his descendants. He goes on to inhabit the firstborn child of each generation. Eventually, Naomi Kale, birth mother of Danny Ketch and Jonny Blaze, tried to break the curse by abandoning her children, and Danny Ketch became bonded to Noble Kale's Ghost Rider soul. Got it?
If I found out in 30 seconds that I'm not recording a podcast with you three,
Okay.
but I'm actually dying, and this is my brain trying to like fire any synapses left. I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised.
No, I think I'm tracking. Can I just like tight five? I want to repeat that
Please,
back to you.
I want you
Go
to
for
do
it.
this.
Yep.
So
Oh, I
you've
get
got.
it. I understand.
I don't. I
everything
need
you
to.
just
I need to
said.
say it, dude, because I'm gonna lose it. Okay, so you've got like the Kale family, who is like they've got the action. They've got the. They're the sorcerers.
Okay.
They're like Ghost Rider royalty. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Like,
exactly. Yeah, they've got the blood of the Ghost Rider, so they've got the innate talent. So, is it coincidence then that Jonny Blaze also is part of that family, or is it, or was that how, or are they saying is that how Jonny Blaze was also able to summon? Because when we said last 3 months ago how it would be really cool to summon Satan. Are you saying that's how Jonny Blaze was able to summon Satan to do a deal?
You're really close. Basically, Jonny Blaze is born of Naomi Kale, who is from the progenitor line of Ghost Riders.
Right, so he's got the blood too.
But he isn't the firstborn, and Noble Kale's soul only inhabits the firstborn.
Right.
So, because Mephisto had a hand in setting up this whole Medallion of Power thing, when Jonny Blaze called Mephisto to do a deal, Mephisto seized the opportunity and bonded him with Zarathos, who was the original enemy of this progenitor Ghost Rider power.
Okay.
Yeah.
No one in naming any of these characters ever predicted that kale would be the superfood of the 2000s, and these would all make great names for kale companies.
Yeah.
But go on.
What I love most is that Andrew, I think, got most excited about this. It's also probably not a coincidence that he loves the Final Fantasy series, because this is some Final Fantasy retcon shit right here.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
100%.
It's super. That's actually what I thought of. I was like, oh, they're just renaming it Firaga. Okay.
Yeah. So eventually, Noble Kale and Danny Ketch become separated from each other, but with the help of Spider-Man and a bomb, are merged back together. this Catch Kale hybrid Ghost Rider becomes the King of Hell and is revealed to be the Marvel incarnation of the Angel of Death and Judgment.
Catch Kale.
Yeah.
Catch Kale hybrid
Uh-huh.
with the help of Spider-Man is
And a bomb? Did you say a bomb or a bum?
A bomb.
A
A bomb.
bomb.
A bomb.
All
Like,
right.
like the leader
Like
of
a-
a sovereign nation, a bomb.
Right.
once again not convinced, like not the first time you could tell me like the author of a comic book arc was watching their 8-year-old play with their toys
Yeah.
Right.
and just wrote it down
Yeah.
and then like turned and then gave it a workup to make it a real story.
Oh, hey, buddy, you said your toys separated? How'd you do that? Oh, well, there was Spider-Man, and then a bomb, and then I was separated. And he's like, can you slow down a little bit? You said Spider-Man.
So let me just remind you guys that this is 1998, which is not a great year for Marvel Comics.
No.
And so as batshit crazy as all of this stuff is and how like forced and retconned it feels, I wouldn't blame that on the arc of the character. I would blame it on this is a comic publisher in 1998 trying desperately to keep the lights on.
This is like Marvel circling the drain.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yep. So, but Kyle, earlier you asked if Jonny Blaze and Zarathos ever shake hands and say, we can work together to control this body. That's Danny Ketch and Noble Kale's thing.
Okay.
All through Danny Ketch's arc, it's noted, and Jonny Blaze talks about how Danny Ketch has a better relationship with his Ghost Rider than Jonny Blaze had with Zarathos. Danny Cage is the descendant. Danny Ketch, thank you, is the descendant of Noble Kale, and thus they have a better relationship. Hand wavy bullshit.
Okay.
All right. So that is the main story of 1972 to 1998 Ghost Rider with a flaming head on a motorcycle with a whip. Most of the stuff that we got from the 2007 Nic Cage movie all comes from this. You can piece the storyline together pretty easily from what I told you. Most of the names are there. Now we're going to go into the 2000s where things get really weird. So the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider story ended on a cliffhanger issue because it got canceled before it could put out the second issue of its two issue finale.
Oh, good.
So go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, and just to benchmark here to talk about how Marvel was doing at the time, because we kind of already alluded to it. 1998, 1999. This is what, 4 years before the Hulk movie with Eric Bana came out.
This was when they would have sold off. We're 2 years into Spider-Man the movie, or 2 years prior to Spider-Man. So this is when they started selling off all their assets.
Yep.
And yeah, Universal got Hulk, Sony got Spider-Man. So this
Fox had X-Men maybe by this point.
Yeah, because X-Men came out in 01 or 02.
When did the original Fantastic Four come out? 05. When did we all scream into the abyss?
That was 05.
Was it 05? Okay.
Yeah. Spider-Man was first. Spider-Man was 01.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's probably a better way to show the situation that Marvel was in at the time.
So, like I said, issue 93 of Ghost Rider Volume 3, Danny Ketch appears to die at the hand of Blackout. Those are two different people. The next year, it was shown in Peter Parker, Spider-Man, number 93, which came out in 1999, that Danny Ketch was still alive. In that story, they meet Noble Kale's Ghost Rider, who's just running around without a host, screaming that he needs a host or to go back to Mephisto's realm. They merge together. I don't know, whatever. A finale to Ghost Rider Volume 3 wasn't published for almost a decade until Ghost Rider Finale in 2007, spurred by, you guessed it, the popularity of the Nic Cage movie.
Mm-hmm.
And from here, Ghost Rider is without a long-running series until 2014.
Wow.
Can you imagine, though?
Okay.
Once again, I can't imagine anyone after 10 years was like, thank God, finally a conclusion to the story. of Danny Ketch, because I
haven't slept in 10 years.
Yeah.
See, I was
I've been
gonna
writing Marvel once a week for 10 years, and they finally listened. Like, I can't imagine anyone was clamoring for it, but
I was gonna say the
What do
complete
I know?
opposite. There was probably like a legit handful of people, and I get that a handful, but just think if you were that person and you were like, "My God." Like, and you just like
Yeah.
yell into the other room, like it's happening, and like
Yeah. So the end of the Jonny Blaze story arc is basically like he gets split from the demon and goes off to live with Roxanne, and they have a family, and then that gets retconned and he gets drugged back in. And Danny Ketch in issue 94 makes peace with Noble Kale, who moves on to the next generation, and he goes on and has a family. And then that gets retconned and he gets dragged back in, because that's how these things work.
Sure.
Mhm. Oh, you mean you can't bond with the spirit of vengeance and then just like peace out and have a happy life afterwards? Weird.
Not usually. So we're going to move on into the 2000s, and we're going to blaze through the 2000s here pretty quickly.
see what you did there.
Yep. A lot of stuff happens here. Some of it is canon, some of it isn't. Some is good, some is really bad. It is all very edgy. So
very edgy.
please put your gloves on. Do not get cut on this edge, because it only gets sharper and more serrated from here. In 2001, Jonny Blaze regains the power of Ghost Rider in Marvel Knights' story, The Hammer Lane.
This
Picture number
cover,
6.
this cover art is so good.
No,
I
it's
love
not.
it. I love it. It's
This is
so
the most
good.
2001 thing I've seen
This
ever.
I'm gonna go with Todd and say this
No.
is not good
It's
cover.
so
This is
good. I
This is the
love
same
it.
energy as me wearing like Converse and like tube socks with my Blink-182 concert shirt in 2001.
It's got the camera angle like pointing up toward him, so you can see like the bottom of his boots. He's just covered in skulls. It's so stupid and awesome.
Like the fact that it took me 30 seconds to decipher what I was actually looking at. It's not good.
Matt,
cover
break
art.
the tie.
This is
It's
no.
orange. It is so incredibly orange. Everything in this cover is orange. I like this cover, but I acknowledge
No,
that it's
doesn't.
not good. Like, I like it, but it's bad. Is that an acceptable answer? I know that's a very middling answer.
I
but
just
that's
want you to.
honest.
I just
I'll
want,
accept
it's
that.
a
tell me
real-
more of the
I'm-
edge.
It's a real milk
I don't
toast
have a
answer.
problem with anyone liking the cover.
I do.
I
It's-
like it.
it's
I generally
Step
bad
forward
cover.
and be counted.
All right, so to talk about the Hammer Lane story, at first there was no indication of what spirit caused Johnny to regain the curse, but it was later revealed to be Zarathos, but a much more savage Zarathos than the previous incarnation, and far more savage than Noble Kale's Ghost Rider. If you were wondering what Zarathos has been doing for the last 20 fucking years, at one point he got in a fight with the Midnight Suns and they turned him to stone. But Zarathos seems to be able to reconstitute itself within Jonny Blaze, because way back at the beginning, that was the deal that Jonny Cage, damn it. That was the deal that Jonny Blaze signed and had his soul bonded with Zarathos. So like Jonny Blaze is Zarathos' respawn point. Anytime you kill Zarathos, it just goes back to Jonny Blaze. Zarathos seems to be able to reconstitute himself. Like I said, had a battle with the Midnight Suns. Now, in the Hammer Lane, Johnny is under constant pursuit by demons trying to force him to return his soul to Mephisto in hell. And the end of Hammer Lane is Jonny Blaze getting drugged to hell as Ghost Rider.
Hammer Lane sounds like an iteration of Mad Max. Like Mad Max in the Hammer Lane.
Mad Max Hammer Lane.
I was gonna say it's a Victorian era period piece.
One and the same, really.
Yeah, it's actually a Travel Channel show hosted by Tim the Toolman Taylor. Hammer Lane.
Oh,
So,
Kyle, do you have
Why?
one? Or
yeah.
nope, I don't.
In 2006, Garth Ennis and Clayton Crane ramped Ghost Rider's edge up all the way to 11 with Road to Damnation. I said 2006. I meant 2005. So go ahead and go to the picture number 7.
I don't like this cover.
I really like this cover.
I like this immensely more than the last one.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite covers, to be completely honest with you.
I agree. This is a good cover.
Now everyone circle around Andrew and kick him.
Just as orange as the other one.
Also
But you
very
can tell what you're
orange.
looking at.
So here's the thing. Garth Ennis and Clayton Crane took Ghost Rider and like put the backpack on and rucked him through the mid to late 2000s. And I'm not going to sit here today and tell you that all of the Garth Ennis stories are really good. I'm not going to do that. I'm also not going to tell you that they're really bad. They are products of 2006, 2007, when Marvel was making money exclusively from MCU movies and trying desperately to get any of their characters to pick up. And the people who were reading comics at the time were super devoted, edgelord, incel comic book nerds. My apologies to you if you were reading comics in 2005, because I'm sure there were cool people who were, but the people who were driving the product sales were people who were really into Garth Ennis's Ghost Rider.
So some things. One, there were no MCU movies at this point. Iron Man came out in 2008. These were all non-MCU movies. Two, Garth Ennis is the touchstone for you living in 2021 is created The Boys. That's Garth Ennis's
Yeah.
claim to fame. Not claim to fame. He also had a very successful run of The Punisher. But here in 2021, what we care about Garth Ennis for is The Boys.
Yeah. Garth Ennis is the anti-superhero guy. He is very much the flip superheroes on his head. He wrote some very cool and different books during the 2000s, but I want to talk about Road to Damnation a little bit. The story of Road to Damnation is that Jonny Blaze has been trapped in hell for 2 years, basically playing Hades. Every day he wakes up, gets on his motorcycle, and tries to ride from one side of hell to the gates of hell to escape. And every day is met by the worst demons of hell who rip him to pieces, only for him to be resurrected the next day and start the ride again.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
it's Hades. He's doing a Hades.
Oh.
Now, one day, an angel named Malachi offers him an escape from hell if he can defeat a demon named Kazan. Johnny defeats the demon, but cannot escape hell because Ghost Rider is always in hell. I think the one-liner kicker at the end of the book is like, take your kicks where you can get them, or something like that. It's not great. This is the book that inspired the 2011 Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance movie.
So can I say something real quick about Malachi?
Yep.
So I was looking at this because I thought this was interesting. I wanted to know like why an angel would release the Ghost Rider or try to. So Malachi Kazan is Malachi's brother, who when Lucifer, Satan, whatever they end up painting in the Marvel universe, leaves heaven, so does Kazan, and Malachi and Kazan keep feeding each other information, like a devil or a demon Kazan, an angel Malachi, to try and like help each other ascend in the ranks. And then Kazan tries to go to the mortal plane to like wreck shit. And Malachi's like, well, that's not fair, but I also can't get involved. So he releases Ghost Rider. Obviously, it all fails. And Malachi's punishment is when Ghost Rider is stuck in hell forever trying to escape, he drags Malachi behind his bike every single day as he gets torn apart by demons.
Yep.
Cool.
So that's something to know. That happened.
That's accurate. So that is Road to Damnation. Again, this is the inspiration behind the 2011 Ghost Rider movie, which in my opinion is very, very bad. It's terrible. But it is Jonny Blaze. Well, it's Nic Cage as Jonny Blaze, and Nic Cage completely unhinged, just like the whole way to Nic Cage.
2011 too was Nic Cage at his Nic Cageiest.
Yeah.
That was like when you cast Nic Cage in 2011, you were casting unhinged. You were lucky if you read the script, Nic Cage.
And in that movie, if we're being honest, Nic Cage's portrayal of Jonny Blaze is not that far off, and I gotta give it to him for that. As much as I hate the movie, I gotta acknowledge that Nic Cage did a I'm not going to say he did a good job. He did the job he was supposed to do.
Nick Cage
and I'll
isn't going to
acknowledge
listen
him
to
for
this,
that.
Matt. You can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, you never know.
What
So
if he
Nick Cage is a huge Ghost Rider fan. Ghost Rider is Nick Cage's favorite superhero. They had to cover up his Ghost Rider tattoo when they were filming the movie in 2007.
That's pretty cool.
That's a fun fact. So I really respect what Nick Cage did for Ghost Rider because he is the Robert Downey Jr. of Jonny Blaze. Crucify me for that later.
Please tell me they didn't cover up his Ghost Rider tattoo in the 2011 movie and just left it.
I don't know. They might have. I don't know. Like I said, Garth Ennis wrote a lot of very cool and different books in the 2000s, but they're really all over the place as far as an overarching plot goes. In the 2000s, Ghost Rider existed through miniseries, and the more of them you look at, the harder it is to find the canon, and I'm trying to draw as straight of a line as I can through this character. So that's as much as I'm going to say about Garth Ennis's books for now. Danny Ketch returns in Ghost Rider Danny Ketch, which came out in 2008, but he's a depressed alcoholic. He has the Noble Kale Ghost Rider exorcised from his body by a techromancer and becomes Ghost Rider again and a servant of Zadkiel, that guy who came back because he was the leader of the Spirits of Vengeance 20,000 years ago.
What is it? Techromancer.
Techromancer is the same question.
It's probably exactly what you think it's going to be. Like someone who uses technology.
It's a technomancer.
That's what I... Okay.
Technology and demons, then. I don't know, Andrew. Whatever.
So,
it's comic books.
Shut up, guys. I'm fucking sorry. I said techromancer and I meant technomancer. I switched the R for an N.
I wasn't trying to be an asshole. I assumed that was a thing. Like Marvel's, you guys would be like, yeah, techromancer, like fucking Jimmy Teco. He's from a 1984.
Actually, Paste Pot Pete is a technomancer because he uses technology to bring things to life.
Techromancer is a 1998 3D arcade fighting game from Capcom.
Oh well, that's fun.
Is that like Tech Space Romancer?
Tech Romancer is also a smutty novel that's on all of our aunt's nightstands.
All right. Well, anyway, picture number 8 in the document is Danny Ketch's 2008 Ghost Rider. He got the blue flames.
This cover is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's
a lot less orange.
Really something. I don't have much to say about this book. A lot less orange.
A lot more blue and a lot less orange.
Well, much like the 2000s, it was either blue or orange.
Yep. Last thing I have for the 2000s is that a standalone Ghost Rider series ran for 9 issues from 2011 through 2012, and that ties in with the Fear Itself story arc. We'll talk about the main character later. This story is not great, but 2 Ghost Riders kiss in that story, and that's picture number 9.
What the fuck?
I found this image today for the first time and had the exact same reaction.
All right.
When Matt says 2 Ghost Riders kiss, if you can't look at the image, 2 Ghost Riders mash their teeth together.
They're clacking their teeth.
Yeah. Like, this is a very romantic pose that someone drew 2 flaming skull-headed demons in. It's weird, man. I don't know. So the reason I brought this one up was because I wasn't sure if you, Kyle, in like 2011 was following the Fear Itself storyline at all.
Kind of.
I'm reading up on it now.
Once I remind myself what that was, I'm sure I know what it is. I just can't call to mind what it was. Fear Itself.
Yeah,
Marvel
everything I read today was basically like, hey, this is one of the worst reviewed Marvel crossover events in recent
I don't
history.
think it was. Yeah, because it's not really on my radar.
No, it had a shitload of people in it. There are a bunch of books from Fear Itself, like a bunch of books from Fear Itself. 9 of them are Ghost Rider stories, and in one of them, 2 Ghost Riders kiss, and that is all I know about Fear Itself. So, like I said, a lot of stuff happens between 98 and 2014. There's a wild story about Jonny Blaze stopping Zadkiel from taking over heaven that I, literally still have not been able to fully piece together. Like a lot of comics during the period, Ghost Rider was trying and failing to find stable footing. Mm-hmm. The character was unrelatable, its story had been garbled with comic book nonsense, and it was being driven by the Edge and the Edge alone. As Marvel retooled as all new, all different Marvel, editor Mark Panicka approached writer Felipe Smith and suggested creating a new, younger Ghost Rider. And that Ghost Rider debuted in 2014. It's picture number 10 in the documents, and his name is Robbie Reyes.
Okay, this cover rocks.
Yeah, this is really
Yeah.
cool. I like
Very
this
orange.
art. Also
Yeah.
very orange.
Cover is very orange.
I like, for those of you not following along the image of Ghost Rider is not a skull. It's like
It's like an Attack on Titan.
yes,
Titan.
exactly. Thank you. Yeah, it very much looks like where you can see like the veins, like the muscle veins going into its teeth. It's really cool.
Yeah. So, much like Danny Ketch was modernized for the audiences of the 90s, so was Robbie Reyes for the 2010s. Instead of driving a Hellfire motorcycle, he drives a 1969 Hellfire Dodge Charger, which is lovingly referred to as the Hell Charger, which fucking rips.
Great.
He also has less of a floating skull motif and more of an industrial mask look. His head is designed to echo the lines of a classic muscle car. So it's not supposed to be a skull. It's not supposed to be a helmet. That is the head of the Ghost Rider, but it is supposed to be modeled after a muscle car.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if this is a demon from hell possessing a body, yeah, why wouldn't it change shape based on the body it's possessing? I love it. I'm into it.
Sold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sold.
And in general, Robbie Reyes has been accepted by Ghost Rider fans in the same way that Miles Morales has been accepted by Spider-Man fans, which is to say that there have been some like major holdouts, usually for racist ass issues. But in general, people are like, hey, this is a really cool new way to tell this story.
Mm-hmm.
So that story, let's jump into the basics. Robbie Reyes works as a mechanic at an auto body shop where he is saving money to get himself and his brother Gabe, who suffers from a developmental disability, out of gang-riddled East LA. Robbie, quote-unquote, borrows a 1969 Dodge Charger from the auto body shop to drag race at night for extra cash. Robbie is gunned down by mercenaries who are after the pills that were accidentally left in the trunk of the Charger when it got dropped off at the body shop. There's an interesting tie back into the fact that those pills were the same pills that turned Calvin Zabo into Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde is the first villain that Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider used the penance stare on.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like walk that back. It's just a fun little Easter egg.
And he's also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, that is true. So, Robbie is gunned down by mercenaries, like I said. He is revived by a demonic spirit that is fused with the car and drives off into the night.
He's bitten by a radioactive 1969 Dodge Charger. Got it.
The spirit introduces itself to Robbie as Eli Morrow and claims to have been killed by gang members. He offers to help Robbie clean up his neighborhood in exchange for help avenging his death. Now, through doing this, Robbie becomes a local hero, which attracts the attention of Jonny Blaze, who comes and uses the penance stare on Eli Morrow's soul because Eli Morrow is actually a satanic serial killer who kidnapped and murdered at least 37 people before being killed by police. Also is Robbie Reyes' uncle. Also is the one who pushed Robbie Reyes' mother down the stairs while she was pregnant, causing Gabe's disability.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Woof.
I know. There's a lot to unpack there.
Took a turn.
Yep. Robbie and Eli fight for dominance over Robbie's body, but eventually bond permanently with Robbie, agreeing to satiate Eli's thirst for blood, but only by killing evil souls.
This is like a mashup of the Stephen King novel Christine with the Futurama episode based on it, The Honking, turned into a Marvel comic.
Question.
And I love all of it.
Yeah, I actually like no notes.
Yeah.
Cool. Now is this still the like Norman Cale or Neon Cale?
Noble
Thank
Cale.
you.
Yep.
Noble Cale chronology, or did they throw that in the garbage at this point?
So I would not say that they threw it in the garbage because that Ghost Rider still exists.
Okay.
But this is not that Ghost Rider. This is a different spirit of vengeance.
This is a way to add a third.
Yeah, it's a different
Ghost
part of the
Rider
medallion.
without stealing from the first two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
The other parts of the medallion do come back. We're not going to talk about them today, nor are they involved in Robbie Reyes' story. Robbie Reyes' story, with the exception of Jonny Blaze coming in to act as a mentor, because that's what Jonny Blaze does in Marvel Comics now. It's completely separate from the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. So we'll talk about powers and abilities here. Pretty much all of the previous powers of the other Ghost Riders, although he doesn't get the penance stare until later on down the line. He does have the Hell Charger instead of a motorcycle, and a lot of Robbie's powers actually come from the Hell Charger itself. So Robbie can instantly teleport to or become merged with the Hell Charger. It can do what in Marvel is apparently called shadow warping and teleport things great distances through shadows. I don't know for sure, but I think that's the same way that Cloak from Cloak and Dagger's power works. But don't quote me on that.
Sounds right.
The Hell Charger can be driven remotely and pass through Robbie, which leads to a lot of really cool scenes of like the Charger running an enemy who is facing Robbie into a building and Robbie walking through the Charger. They had a cool little nod to that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well.
Yep.
It's cool power.
Matt, can you read this next bullet point?
Yeah, so the trunk is a portal through hell, you guys. And let me be clear that it's not a portal to hell. It is a portal through hell. So, like, it'll take you anywhere. You've just got to dip through hell on the way.
Oh, this is a wormhole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Robbie can create portals with the help of a Hell Charger. Or with the help of the Hell Charger, excuse me. So I know in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., when Robbie like created a portal to take the Darkhold through, a lot of people were like, yo, what the fuck? Ghost Rider has a sling ring? No, that's a real thing that Robbie Reyes can do in the comic books.
Because someone in the party always needs the ability to fast travel.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to write it in.
Yep. Robbie's Ghost Rider can also consume souls. Not a thing the other Ghost Riders can do. He can also imbue other vehicles with Hellfire, which we didn't really talk about. Danny Ketch can do as well. Jonny Blaze in his original arc doesn't really do that much. That came a lot in the 2000s when it was like anything the Ghost Rider touches is imbued with Hellfire. The best scenes in the 2011 Ghost Rider movie are based on that sentence and that sentence alone.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about some major story arcs for Robbie Reyes. And I'll say up front, I don't know as much about Robbie Reyes as I do about Danny Ketch and Jonny Blaze. So I'm sure there's a ton of cool stuff that I'm leaving out. So if you're a big Robbie Reyes fan, I'm sorry that I didn't talk about your favorite story arc. He has had a ton of comics in the last 7 years. A lot of them have been really cool. And honestly, I just haven't read that many of them. So Robbie Reyes gets his power of the penance stare and accidentally kills Starbrand, who is like a fucking superhero. I don't know. I've read Starbrand a lot in the last couple of days, and I've not yet really put together who Starbrand is and why they're important. But Robbie Reyes kills him with the penance stare. He also joins an Avenger team made up of Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America to fight off the Celestial Final Host. After that battle, he befriends Odin. Robbie Reyes is also Gabriel Luna in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in season 4 or 5, yet to be
4.
determined.
I looked it up earlier. It's
great. 4. Perfect. Awesome. Love it. And then I just wanted to put this in there because I got to cry about it a little bit. Robbie Reyes was supposed to have his own show on Hulu premiering in 2020. It was killed in the Marvel Studios culling when Marvel Studios took back all of its TV properties. Robbie Reyes had signed on. The series had been written. They said that they're shopping around, but that was before D Plus launched. So,
do you mean Gabriel Luna signed on?
Yes. What did I say?
Robbie Reyes signed on.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that. I've read a lot of Wikipedia today.
Because I asked because that answers the question I had of like, is it the same continuity as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes,
So
it was supposed to be a spinoff of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I still have a lot of hope that they'll bring it to D Plus. I really liked Gabriel Luna's Robbie Reyes. I thought he was very good. I would love to see Jonny Blaze or Nic Cage in the MCU, but if we get Robbie Reyes, I'm not going to complain about that.
That arc had some of the best episodes in that season, and that was the season that they did the Agents of Hydra bit, and that's still like some of those Ghost Rider episodes were still some of the best.
Absolutely. So that is basically all there is to know about the main Ghost Rider story, starting in 1949 up through now with the current Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes. We have a bunch more Ghost Riders to talk about, but it's going to be more of a lightning round, and that's going to come up after a quick break. But before we go, I'd love to know if you guys have any thoughts about this, I don't want to call it a grounded story, but the baseline story of Ghost Rider. Do you hate it as much as you thought you would? Are you on board? Tell me your thoughts.
I'm in. I like this a lot more than I thought I would, and I think I have to commend you, Matt, for doing a really good job of crunching this down, because I don't think I actually like this story. I think I like your retelling of it. That said, though, I know that I really, really enjoyed Robbie Reyes in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think that character is really cool, and this cover is so good.
I will echo that. I think a lot of my conceptions of Ghost Rider come from the period in the 2000s where they were floundering and didn't know what to do with the character. And I think like having it all kind of spelled out. And again, I understand you cleaned up a lot of even Jonny Blaze and Nic Cage's stories too. So kudos to that. Yeah, I like Ghost Rider as a character. I think it's just been kind of a mess through the continuity, and I think you have fixed a lot of the problems I have with it with your retelling. So good job.
Yeah, not going to repeat what Andrew and Kyle said. Love it. I was in before we started, in now, still in.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Your compliments have raised my dopamine levels to get me through the last half of this podcast. Because as much as you loved this first half, I think that you're going to love-hate this second half, because we're about to get really, really weird. But we're going to do it in lightning round style. So we will be back with that right after a quick break. We've also got a Ding Dang Patreon where you can get yourself some Ding Dang perks like access to our Ding Dang Discord, regular Ding Dang bonus content, weekly Ding Dang live recordings of our second show, The Ploose is Loose, and even the opportunity to commission your own Ding Dang flavor text. You can join up for as low as $2 Ding Dang dollars, so make sure to tell all your Ding Dang friends. Welcome back from that drink and or bathroom break, as we are about to jump back in on the back half of the Ghost Rider flavor text. And I said before the break that if you loved the first half, I'm really confident that you'll probably love-hate this half. I don't know. The reality is that there are a bunch of other Ghost Riders, and now we're going to talk about some of my favorites, for better or for worse. There have been a whole bunch of Ghost Riders in the last 72 years. Many of them have only existed as one-off books or mentions. Some of them have relevance to the main Ghost Rider story. 2 of them are pretty significant and also very cool. So we're going to talk about them for a bit, and then we're just going to go rapid fire through a whole bunch of other Ghost Riders that are just downright cool. All right?
I'm excited.
Sweet.
Let's do it.
Great. Thank you for the verbal confirmation. All right. Ghost Rider 2017, picture number 11. Marvel Legacy Volume Number 1 introduced
Hell yeah.
Ghost the Rider. Marvel Legacy Volume Number 1 introduces us to the Avengers of 10,000 BC. Now, this is actually through Robbie Reyes' nightmare, right before he wakes up and Penance stares Starbrand. So if you were curious where this pops up in the story. Now, the prehistoric Avengers were founded by Firehair, who is the avatar of the Phoenix Force, Odin Borson, Agamotto, the Black Panther, Iron Fist, Starbrand, and Ghost the Rider.
Love it.
I love it so much.
It's a great example of like they just backdated all this extra stuff that was super important. Now, like Agamotto.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Right. Now, if you remember back when I talked about the history of Noble Kale and how 20,000 years ago, the Blood made a deal with the Spirits of Vengeance and Noble Kale became the first Ghost Rider.
Uh-huh.
Now this guy is the first Ghost Rider? I don't know. It gets wishy-washy. But anyway, let's do the basic backstory of Ghost the Rider. He was a young boy who lived on Earth 1 million years ago and was a caveman of above average intelligence. One day, a man came to his tribe, violently became its leader, revealed itself to be a Wendigo, and killed the whole tribe. He left the boy alive, giving him the name Ghost, and challenged Ghost to find him, the Wendigo, later on in life.
Okay.
Now, Ghost, with his whole family dead and his whole tribe dead, decided that if the stranger can survive outside of the cave, so can Ghost. So he ventured out on his own, and after almost dying in the harsh environment of 10,000 BC, was approached by a snake, which convinced Ghost to say the snake's real name. Which, like, every article I read didn't say what the name of the snake was. I think it's Mephisto. I'm pretty sure I read that at one
the
point.
snake. So, spoiler alert: that snake's name, Mephisto.
Mephisto, right? Exactly. So when Ghost said Mephisto's name, that bonded Ghost to a spirit of vengeance. And note, I say a spirit of vengeance. It is not established which spirit of vengeance.
The spirit of vengeance,
right?
But it's one of them.
And allowed Ghost to imbue his new woolly mammoth friend with hellfire. And that's what we get in this awesome picture with Ghost the Rider riding on his hellfire woolly mammoth.
It's so
amazing.
Right.
This like the Ghost Rider imbuing whatever like mount or vehicle they have with the hellfire is like what Ghost Rider has needed since its inception in 1948 or whatever. Like, mwah, perfect. Give me more Ghost Riders and vehicles to be imbued with hellfire, please.
So a brief touching on the powers and abilities of Ghost the Rider. Seemingly all the powers of previous Ghost Riders, except he has a bone whip, and that's cool because the bone whip can do all the things of the chain whip, but it's a bone spine, and that's cool. He's got a woolly mammoth instead of a motorcycle or a car. And the special power of Ghost the Rider is that he can control and animate the bones of the deceased for quote unquote various effects.
Sure.
He looks like Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, he does. He looks a lot like Shao Kahn. So that's Ghost the Rider. For a lot of these extra people, didn't really dawdle on the story arcs. Google
It's
more
not,
if you want to read
it doesn't
more.
matter.
Yeah, exactly. So that is Avengers 10,000 BC. Let's move on to the next batshit insane Ghost Rider. Pictures number 12, 13, and 14 are Frank Castle.
For what it's worth, I think it's Avengers 1,000,000 BC.
I don't know. I think it's 10,000 BC. Is it 1,000,000 BC?
I think it might be 1,000,000 BC.
Avengers 10,000 BC.
I didn't mean to actually, but that's what.
Oh, you're right. It is. It's Avengers 1,000,000 BC. All right. Well, that's fine.
Do the
Whatever.
clean cut.
Yeah. Avengers 1,000,000 BC. Unfortunately, all of that is probably going to stay in because I'll be too lazy to edit it out. Anyway, moving on. In 2018, Frank Castle, the Punisher, became Ghost Rider.
Which
And
feels
not
right.
only did he become Ghost Rider, he became Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Ah, there it is.
So I'll give you a
Okay.
second to look at 12, 13, and 14 in the docs. You will see
12 and
both-
13 don't prepare you for 14.
That subtitle, though.
You will see both the subtitle Baby Thanos Must Die, and then you will also see a sleeping baby Thanos going for a piggyback ride on the head of Cosmic Ghost Rider.
So it's just the Mandalorian.
It's kind of the Mandalorian. Yeah. So in Thanos number 13, Cosmic Ghost Rider debuted as the right-hand man of the Mad Titan and was given an origin story in Thanos number 16. Now, this story arc takes place in Earth TRN 666, which is a Marvel universe in which Thanos wins. So the basic backstory of Cosmic Ghost Rider. Frank Castle, his backstory, pretty similar to the 616 Frank Castle that we know and love, up until Thanos comes to Earth. So the Punisher was one of the last casualties during the last stand of the heroes, and his soul was sent to hell after he died. When he got to hell, he made a deal for his soul with Mephisto to exact revenge on Thanos. But Frank Castle Ghost Rider returned to Earth to find Thanos gone and the planet to be completely dead. And he roams for a plot amount of time with no one to kill or love, and begins to lose his mind from the solitude because even Mephisto stops responding to his messages. Until
Mephisto gets tired of his shit.
Yeah. Until Galactus shows up. So Frank, being the only living being left on planet Earth, offers the dead planet to Galactus in exchange for help stopping Thanos, and Galactus gives Frank the power cosmic, thus making him Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Good. Very good.
Yep. They find Thanos, who beheads Galactus, convinces Ghost Rider to join him so that he may view all the evil, and send him back in time to get a younger Thanos so they can all work together to defeat the Fallen One, who is actually the Silver Surfer, who then crushes Cosmic Ghost Rider with Mjolnir.
Who crushes Cosmic Ghost Rider with Mjolnir?
Silver Surfer, the Fallen One.
Good.
Yes. The Fallen One crushes Cosmic Ghost Rider with Mjolnir.
I didn't follow that, but I don't feel like I need to.
You super don't.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Odin revives Cosmic Ghost Rider and then offers him a place in Asgard, but Cosmic Ghost Rider Frank Castle doesn't fit into Asgard very well. And so instead, Odin gives him a piece of the Time Stone and offers to send him back to any point in history that he likes. He decides to go back in time to kill baby Thanos, but ends up trying to raise baby Thanos not to be Thanos. This story is fucking insane.
He's literally the Don Cheadle moment of like, why don't we just go back in time to baby Thanos and just make strangling noises? Like,
yeah.
But then doesn't.
Fuck?
There's
Right.
this whole thing where like Cable gets involved.
Of course.
And then like Ghost Rider kills like 3 or 4 iterations of Cable because Cables from different times keep showing up. It's a mess. It all leads to Ghost Rider and baby Thanos being taken by Cable to an Earth that Teen Thanos created that's half peaceful and half urban slavery. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Is it like a good story? Like, is it
Is it a good mess? Is it a fun mess? Or
is it just kind of,
is it
just a mess?
I haven't
garbage?
read Cosmic Ghost Rider because I saw the
oh, and you're not
subtitle.
going to?
No,
All right.
I saw the subtitle "Baby Thanos Must Die" and said, "No, that's okay, not for me." So to be honest, I don't know. But the 2 books that I did read while I was researching this, I would not say is a good bad. I would say it is a bad bad. Others might disagree with me, but I don't have anything to argue against.
Got it.
There.
There's a paragraph of the story. After bringing the Seekers to Thanos, the Fallen One was sent to locate the Maker. He found her corpse before he battled the Promeal gods Tenebrus and Aegis, who killed him and presented his remains to Thanos as a gesture of contempt. So that's the kind of thing you're going to get from this story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
good?
All right, so let's get into the powers and abilities of Cosmic Ghost Rider. He's got all the previous Ghost Rider powers. Also, he has all the power cosmic powers, so he can do all the Ghost Rider things, but he can also do interstellar travel, energy projection, a cosmic penance stare, which can incinerate any sinner regardless of if they feel remorse or not, and also telekinesis.
Sure.
Cosmic Ghost
Throw that in there.
Perfect.
Yes, and
That's
now
a mess.
it's an absolute mess. It is a train wreck.
Because the idea of Frank Castle taking on the spirit of vengeance
Great.
and becoming a Ghost
Great.
Rider is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Adding in all the extra gobbledygook is insane, and I think of a waste of like a good initial idea.
Yeah.
of,
It sounds
Like,
like
of Frank Castle being the Ghost
it's
Rider.
got Star Fox Dinosaur Planet problem and I'll explain that. They made a whole story. They're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had somebody with the power cosmic that like went back in time and like saved baby Thanos or whatever, like that. It feels like that was the story, and then some exec was like, make a Ghost Rider. You know what I mean?
Make it Frank Castle.
Make it Frank Castle as Ghost Rider. Like they squish those two stories together.
The way it happens in my brain. Sorry, Todd.
No, you go ahead, because you might say what I'm going to say.
The way that it happens in my brain is that like they were in the writing room and somebody was like, okay, what if we make Frank Castle Ghost Rider? And at that exact moment was like, but while he was doing cocaine, an exec was like, I love it, print it. And then after he bumped a mountain of cocaine was like, but we give him the power cosmic. And the exec was like, oh shit, we already signed off on it. I guess we got to do the book. And that's how we got Cosmic Ghost Rider.
See, I thought instead they did Frank Castle becomes the Ghost Rider. Everyone's on board. And then they're like, well, like he needs to punish Thanos. Thanos is this big bad that we're getting right now. It's like, yeah, that's great. And they go, would Frank Castle murder a baby Thanos? And everyone goes, but would he? How do we get him there? They did like we do with our pun, punchlines of like, would Frank Castle murder a baby Thanos? He is Ghost Rider seeking justice. How do we connect these two dots? And some guy at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday was like, power cosmic. All right, I'm out.
I really like, because Marvel Comics are under the Disney banner at this point still. This all percolated, and like 2 years later, someone reskinned it all as the Mandalorian. Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly it.
Like, we because like
this hardened
baby
bounty killer-esque person.
Yeah, you
protecting small child.
Like baby Thanos, baby Yoda, similar, like same headspace, and then the mercenary bad guy is a good guy now because the baby melted his icy heart. It's all there. Like all the parts are there. They just like reshuffled it and reskinned it with Star Wars, and we got the Mandalorian.
Also, baby Thanos' ball chin is very good.
It's not necessary.
The fact that they didn't change baby Thanos head at all is very upsetting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with all of that behind us, I thought we'd end with a fun little lightning round. So here are some of my other favorite Ghost Riders from around the multiverse in one sentence or less. We start with the only one we've mentioned already. That is Alejandra Jones. She is picture number 15 in your document. That is an orphan who was trained in the confines of a temple to become the next Ghost Rider. Her special powers... Yeah, it sucks. Her special powers include empathic reading, sin manipulation, soul manipulation, paranormal weather generation, and growth. She can grow. That was that Bad Fear Itself book that I talked about earlier.
Somebody wrote that with their boner.
Yep.
Yep.
Picture number 16 is Ghost Rider 1000 AD. We don't get much about this Ghost Rider. Basically, there's a mention of like, Noble Kale has been the Ghost Rider for fucking long time. And here's the Ghost Rider from every generation. Ghost Rider 1000 BC or 1000 AD, is a Native American of the Sioux tribe who fought alongside Thor Odinson, Baldolph the Black, an Atlantean Iron Fist, Phoenix, Tanarak, Nahandra, and the Black Panther. He rides a Hellfire Bison.
Okay.
I saw the Hellfire Bison. This does the thing where like everything else you mentioned sounds cooler. Like an Atlantean Iron Fist sounds really cool. Phoenix in the year 1000 AD sounds really cool.
She's an old woman.
Black Panther from the year 1000, like what Black Panther looked like in 1000 AD sounds really cool. We already got ancient Ghost Rider. Like, show me these other things.
These like quote period piece, if you want to call it that, I guess. Avengers, I love this.
Picture number 17 is Hellhawk. A Native American Ghost Rider who was a rival to Noble Kale's Pilgrim Ghost Rider. Says Marvel loves their cowboys and Indian stories.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's not great.
I know. I know it isn't. But
I do like the Hellfire horse is fun though.
Yes. Hellhawk looks really cool. Hellhawk is one of my favorite Ghost Riders in appearance. Probably my favorite non-main Ghost Rider in appearance is the next one, Kashala, picture number 18.
Ooh.
She is known as the Demon Rider. She is an Apache woman who prayed to her creator after her parents were murdered and became not only the spirit of vengeance, but was also the sorcerer supreme.
Oh, love
time.
that.
Okay. Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is very cool. I like her a lot. So picture number 20 is another really cool cover. This guy's name is Caleb. This is another Garth Ennis book. Trail of Tears has some really interesting reviews, and you can Google them and read them yourself and form your own opinion. But Caleb was a former slave who bought his freedom after the Civil War, but was killed by a white gang and resurrected as a spirit of vengeance. His special powers include possession and dimensional travel. That's that. Form your own opinions. The next picture number 21. This guy's name is Michael. I spelled it wrong in the documents, but it's Battolino. Michael Battolino. He's a former cop who becomes an enemy of Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider and accepts Mephisto's offer to become another rider called Vengeance. Same power set, but he looks cool.
I thought you were going to say for a second, accepts Mephisto into his heart.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Vengeance comes back. Vengeance is kind of in and out. I don't know. They were like, how can we make a villain edgier than Ghost Rider? Give him tusks. And that was how Vengeance came around. And he's not my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on to some of the wilder Ghost Riders. Picture number 22 is Ultimate Ghost Rider. It's just Jonny Blaze with a different backstory. And this Jonny Blaze sold his soul to Satan instead of Mephisto.
They went ultimate edge on that one.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Picture number 24.
Never mind. I take back what I said.
We'll do an Ultimate Avengers one of these days, because I read those comics and it's all just like, how can we take the Avengers and make them horrible people? And it's awful. It's real bad and not fun at all.
Not ultimate at all. Picture number 23, Ghost Rider 2099.
Cool.
Yep.
He's just Terminator. Like he's
Yeah,
just
it's
the
Terminator.
I love every iteration of 2099 superheroes we get, because they're all stupid awesome. Like and Matt, I'll let you describe what we're looking at right here.
So this guy's name is Kenshihiro Zero Cochran. He is a hacker who is killed but comes back as an AI to control a cyberpunk Ghost Rider robot.
Naturally.
He's got lots of 2099-ish powers, but he does have a chainsaw hand, and that's pretty cool.
He is the he's the Terminator.
Yep.
Yeah.
In 2099, everyone's a hacker.
Uh-huh. Yeah. His sister, Ava Cochran, also becomes Ghost Rider for a hot minute. They did not pass up many an opportunity to make Ghost Rider chesty, which is never good. It's always bad. 100% of the time, it's bad. Yeah. So the next picture number 24, is Spirit of Vengeance, Wiliatus Autolycus. Wiliatus Autolycus.
No, you didn't need to say it twice.
Yeah, we heard you.
He is an alien from Earth 691 who does some stuff with the Guardians of the Galaxy. He is imbued with the fires of Cowrie instead of Hellfire. And that is all I know about this guy.
All right.
Which is probably just a hand-wavy way of saying Space Hell. Like it's Space Hellfire instead of Hellfire.
Yeah, Space Hell would have been a cooler name than Cowrie. Picture number 25 is Barbara Ketch. That is Danny Ketch's sister. She becomes the Ghost Rider in the What If series and is much more vicious and ruthless.
She has impeccable posture.
She does.
She does, yeah.
Posture's amazing.
So this next one, picture number 26, that is not Ghost Rider.
Ooh.
That is Host Rider.
I love that.
Host Rider.
Host Rider during the Venomverse storyline. Robbie Reyes bonds with the symbiote. Uh-huh. Yeah. And Eli Morrow's satanic serial killer spirit and the symbiote get along really well. They get along super well, and Robbie Reyes is basically just a puppet for their destruction.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's kind of
cool.
I
don't hate it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Speaking of kind of cool, if you could scroll to picture number 27, you'll meet Ghost Spider.
Okay.
I've seen this
that.
before,
That
I do not like this one.
feels inevitable.
Yeah. So this is Peter Parker of Earth 11638 has his soul sent to hell, where it is resurrected with the help of Bruce Banner's Sorcerer Supreme and becomes Ghost Spider. It's Spider-Man, but with Ghost Rider powers. Ghost Spider. Yep.
Does he shoot like flame webs?
You're goddamn right he does, Kyle.
Great.
Yep. Hellfire webs. Scroll to picture number 28, please, and let me introduce you to Ghost Panther.
Ghost Panther gets a pass. Ghost Spider.
Yeah.
I'm gonna thumbs down. Ghost Panther. Yep, great endorsement.
So in the Infinity Warps arc, T'Challa leaves Wakanda, moves to America, is adopted by an amalgamation of Brother Voodoo and Crash Simpson, is renamed Jonny Blaze, dies during a stunt performance, is revived by Zarathos, and becomes Ghost Panther.
I got on board and off board
Same.
multiple times during that sentence.
An incredibly convoluted story that did not.
And I think I end up off. But like I was with Andrew, I was ready to like this, and then you told us that, and I don't anymore.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have not read any of the Infinity Warps series, but from the one Wikipedia page that I explored today, I do not want to. But Ghost Panther is just Black Panther with Ghost Rider powers. And last but not least, my friends, picture number 29, Todd's favorite. This is just for you. It's Goose Rider.
I do love Goose Rider.
From Earth 8311. He is a goose.
I need all the listeners to know Todd is just like grinning like a little schoolboy, and he's just so happy.
What makes this so good is the panel has just honk 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 written everywhere.
If you don't, I pulled up the paragraph for Goose Rider like half an hour ago. At sunset, an ordinary goose becomes the Goose Rider. While he is a nightmare, his main problem lies on the limited leisure activities in his area, including cinemas and bowling.
Yep.
He's just like a little Hellfire nerd.
One of the biggest Goose Rider story arcs that I could find is one night he's watching a movie and some plucky teens are using his bike to roast marshmallows, and that makes him pretty mad. Yeah. And that's about what I know of Goose Rider.
If we can't talk about the Hobgobbler, we're going to talk about Goose Rider.
And with that, my friends, that is my flavor text lore dump of all you really need to know about Ghost Rider in a little under 3 hours. Woo! How you guys doing? Give me your final thoughts. Wrap it up for me.
I'm good. This is fun.
No, we will not be releasing the cold cut of this episode. There's not a secret hour and a half of extra footage waiting to be put back in.
Yeah.
This is it, guys.
I love it. I mean, I'll keep mine short. I'm excited for when they bring Ghost Rider back to the MCU. He's obviously got a very, very good place. There's a lot of good outlets. I just want it.
Yeah, same. This was super fun. I'm in. I would love to see Robbie Reyes get pulled back in, specifically Robbie Reyes.
I agree. I like this. I want to see Robbie Reyes. I like Ghost Rider as a concept and as a member of a team. I don't know if I'm on board for like extended runs of solo Ghost Rider stories, but yeah, like you bring me the heroes are down and we've already been introduced to Ghost Rider, and then all of a sudden a flaming motorcycle comes back and turns the tide of battle. Yeah, of course I'm gonna love that every time I see it, but yeah, like you said, then we get things like Ghost Panther and all the convoluted stories through the 70s and 80s and early 2000s. I don't know if I like that, but yeah, I like Ghost Rider. This was good.
Good. Well, I'm glad you guys don't hate me at the end of this. I worked really hard to make it consumable, because trust me, man, like I love Ghost Rider a lot, and I think I said it off air that my fanhood of Ghost Rider comes with a lot of picking and choosing the parts I choose to care about. Because like all comic book heroes, like the story's been pulled in a million different directions over 70 years, and there are some things you can look back on and really love, and some things you can look back on and wish it didn't happen. And the reality is that what's canon is wishy-washy at best, and you can like and enjoy whatever Ghost Rider stories you want without needing to accept the other ones. So if you really enjoyed this flavor text and you're looking for a place to jump in, I'll give you just a couple. For one, if you're like, I want one hit of Ghost Rider, I want to take my one hit and I want to go home, I really cannot recommend enough to you the 2007 Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie. It is a very good 2-hour hit of this Ghost Rider story. It's got all you need to know. It's got a couple of the names that matter. It's got the right powers. And after that, who gives a shit, man? You don't need to read anything else. Watch that movie. You got it. If you're looking to read a book or two, I really like the Midnight Suns arc. So you could pick up Ghost Rider Volume 3, number 28. That's where the Midnight Suns are formed. It's a really cool jumping off point. And now that you know this, you don't really need to know all the backstory of how they got there. You just need to know that they're there. Or if you want to jump in on some more modern stuff, also big recommendation for Robbie Reyes and his story. So you can pick up Ghost Rider. I think it's just All New Ghost Rider is what his first book is called, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's really good. Read it. Check it out. I like it a lot. And if you can slog through the first 4 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., season 4 is where it gets good, and you should watch that too because it's got Ghost Rider in it.
Season 2 is good. Season 2 is where I think it like really picks up.
Yeah, season 1, we've said it before.
It's the Winter Soldier thing.
Yeah.
Until the Winter Soldier thing smashes into the storyline, it gets real good. But it's like the first 2/3 of season 1 is the monster of the week slog, and then it gets good.
Yeah. All right. Well, with all of that said and behind us, thank you for listening in to Debate This, and one more huge thanks to patron Connor, aka Thunder Chicken, for commissioning this episode of Debate This. You can follow along with our arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Debate This Cast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. Like I said 2.5 hours ago, and just a second ago, this was a commissioned episode. If you would like to commission your own flavor text or hang out with us on Discord and score some sweet bonus content for both Debate This and our second show, The Plus is Loose, head on over to patreon.com/debatethiscast. I have one last request for you. If you have someone in your life who you know secretly enjoyed the 2007 Nic Cage Ghost Rider movie, send them this podcast. I promise, they need it. Until next time, I'm Matt Cole.
I'm Andrew. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross, my debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Mephisto, I lift your name on high.
2 thumbs down, man. 2 big thumbs down.
I'm Todd. If Ghost Rider took over an American rapper in 2019, it would be Ghost Malone Thomas.
And I'm Kyle. We went this whole episode without bringing up that the villain of the 2007 Ghost Rider movie was American Beauty's Wes Bentley Harper.
And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.
Hell yeah.